How's it going, folks? Welcome to another fun at-home table read. Tonight we are jumping into easily my favorite David Fincher movie. It's underappreciated, I think, but we're going to be jumping into the real-life story of Zodiac. We're just going to start busting into our cast because this is a long one tonight. So, starting us off.
Hello, my name is Mary, and I will be reading action description.
Hi, I'm Erik. I'll be reading the role of Robert Graysmith.
Hello, I'm George. I'll be playing Paul Avery.
I'm Logan. I'll be reading Dave Toschi.
I'm Lynne, and I am reading Armstrong.
I'm Anne, and I will be Theiriot.
I'm Angie, and I'm reading Meryl. Moral.
All right, well, Mary, take us away.
All right. Zodiac by James Vanderbilt, based on the books Zodiac and Zodiac Unmasked by Robert Graysmith. This really happened, for the record. Fade in on an American flag, fluttering in the breeze, it's twilight, the sun giving way to a crisp Northern California summer evening. Superimpose July 4th, 1969, summer of love. Fireworks streak into the sky behind the flag. Kids in backyards sending up bottle rockets, burgers on grills. Welcome to suburbia, the American dream. Superimpose Vallejo, California. Exterior Beechwood Avenue night. A bronze Corvair rattles down the street. At the wheel is Darlene Farron, 22, clad in a white and blue jumpsuit. Long fake eyelashes and braces, which makes her look more like 17. She pulls up in front of a house, honks. Mike Margot races out, tall and skinny at 19, face lit up with a textbook crush on Darlene. Interior Corvair night. Mike gets in breathless. Darlene puts the car in gear.
We have to get fireworks. I told Dean I'd invited some people over.
How do you take it?
He'd rather have me home with him than running around with strange men.
Darlene giggles at this. Mike doesn't. Dean is Darlene's husband, therefore Mike's competition. She lights up a cigarette, oblivious to Mike's longing stare. She takes a right. The car behind them does too.
I like your jumpsuit.
I made it myself. This guy I know sent the fabric from Mexico.
You're married. I don't think it's proper for guys to send you things.
You send me things.
Yeah, but that's different.
Is it?
Mike squirms. Darlene just smiles, keeps driving. She takes a left. The car behind them does too. Mike notices.
I think someone's following us.
Darlene looks. A pair of headlights behind them. Normal.
You're being paranoid.
He's been with us since my house. They take a left up here.
That's not the way we have to go.
She stops, looking at him. He actually seems scared.
He's just going to drive past.
She puts on the blinker, coming up on Oakwood, takes the left. The headlights disappear. Darlene and Mike both watching the rearview mirror. The headlights reappear, reach the intersection, and take the left too.
It's just a coincidence. He's going the same way we are.
Take another left.
She looks at him.
Head back towards my house, like we forgot something. If he's not following us, there's no reason for him to turn around too.
No argument from Darlene. She puts on the blinker, takes the left. They watch the rear view. Holding their breath, the headlights reach the intersection behind them and turn to follow them.
It could still be a coincidence?
No, it's not a coincidence.
Cut off as Darlene pulls a hard right. No blinker this time. Behind them, the headlight follows, taking the turn.
Shit, oh shit.
We can't panic. We just have to lose him.
How?
Maybe get on the side street that you know really well.
He's speeding up.
And he is. The headlights gaining.
What do we do?
Go straight. I need time to think.
What's there to think about? What do we do?
The headlights right behind them, riding their bumper.
Slow down.
What?
But no brake lights. Take your foot off the gas. Just coast.
Darlene's foot coming off the gas, the speedometer needle falling. 45, 44, 43.
Tell me this is a joke.
The headlights slowing on them, staying on their bumper. 39, 38, 37.
Tell me that's just Dean in the other car and you guys are just messing with me.
34, 33, 32.
Next left is a straightaway. Don't signal, just take it and floor it. Can you do that?
Darlene nods, face tight. She can. Through the windshield, we see the left 50 yards up. She automatically moves to signal, then remembers not to. Grips the wheel instead. They turn 30 yards up. The speedometer, 28, 27, 26.
Accelerate into the turn.
In the rear view, the headlights still right on them, 10 yards till the left. Mike grips the door handle, 3 yards, 2 yards, 1. Darlene cranks the wheel left and pounds the gas, tires squealing around the curve as the Corvair shoots forward. Mike and Darlene pinned back into their seats. Behind them, the headlights trying to make the turn, heading for an embankment. The Corvair, is this a Corvette? No, it's Corvair, fishtailing as it pulls into a Blue Rock Springs.
Don't take your foot off the gas.
Darlene struggles to maintain control of the wheel. Behind them, the headlights barely swerving past the embankment. Darlene straightens out the car. The engine roars as she runs the Corvair flat out on the straightway. The speedometer, 48, 49, 50. Behind them, the headlights skids into a Blue Rock Springs and speed up. All pretense drop, coming after the kids. Mike gazes at them through the back window.
He's still coming.
Darlene's foot is on the floor, but the headlights are once again gaining, cutting the distance between them. The Corvair's engine straining, 62, 63, 64. Shoom! The Corvair's interior lights up as their pursuer switches to high beams. Darlene, terrified, honking the horn, tears in her eyes.
Go away.
The headlights don't go anywhere. Nearing the Corvair's rear bumper again, she holds the horn down, weeping.
Please.
69, 70, 71. Out of the corner of her eye, Darlene spies a right turn. She cranks the wheel right into the parking lot of the Blue Rock Spring Golf Course as the headlights shoot past, missing the turn. The Corvair skids into the lot, Darlene's foot flying to the brakes.
Turn and go.
Darlene about to turn when wham! The Corvair hits a log, front wheels crunching over it, undercarriage slamming into it, hung up. Panicked, Darlene stomps the accelerator, wheels spinning, the engine sputters.
No.
The engine dies. Silence. The lot, pitch black, the only light coming from the road, the headlights leisurely turning around and coming back towards the parking lot. Darlene desperately trying her key. Nothing.
Jesus.
The headlights enter the parking lot slowly, swinging around, coming to a halt 8 feet behind the Corvair. And then the headlights go out. Darlene and Mike plunged into darkness. The other car sits behind them, engine rumbling, beige, possibly white, looks like a 58 or 59 Falcon with old California plates. A flicker of recognition in Darlene's eyes. Mike notices.
Do you know who it is?
She doesn't respond. Can't take her eyes off the car, just sitting there. The driver making no move to get out.
We could run.
She puts her hand over his, looks at him. Don't move. Darlene, Mike, and the other car sit there for what seems like an eternity. And then the other car pulls forward, headlights clicking back on, passing the Corvair, headed for the exit, like a lion who's cornered its prey and then decides it's not hungry, leaving. They watch it go, finally disappearing over the horizon. Mike exhales for what seems like the first time in minutes.
Do you know who that was?
I didn't get a good look.
Darlene.
She looks up at them.
I don't know.
Mike studies her face, decides to let it go for now.
Try the engine again.
She does. It won't turn over.
I think it's dead. We're going to be so late.
And she begins laughing, a release of all the tension. Mike laughs with her.
Your husband's going to think the worst.
That gets Darlene going even more. They sit there together laughing till tears run down their cheeks. Finally,
I need to find a payphone.
he stops short through the windshield, headlights coming back over the horizon. Darlene and Mike frozen in fear. The headlights reach the entrance of the parking lot. They turn in.
Oh, no.
Pulling to a stop behind the Corvair is an offline position, sort of like a cop. Suddenly, a spotlight from inside the other car hits the Corvair. Mike exhales.
It's the cops.
The door opens and the cop out inside gets out.
We need our IDs.
Darlene reaches for her purse. The cops walk up to the car, flashlight outstretched, shining it in Mike and Darlene's faces, practically blinding them. He reaches Mike's door.
Man, you've got no idea how much you scared us.
He trails off, noticing something odd. The flashlight is taped to the barrel of a gun. This is no cop. A clink of metal as the gun taps the window frame. Mike stares at it, confused. This will not be stylized. This will not be cool. This is what real bullets from a real gun can do. The man pulls the trigger. The gun roars. Mike's blood and teeth explode onto the dashboard. The man keeps shooting. The guns are deafening. Bullets punch through flesh and bone. Arterial blood spray gouts across the Corvair's interior, bathing it in red. Some shots rip straight through Mike and into Darlene. Mike is shot once in the face, once in the neck, and once in the arm. Darlene is shot twice in the right arm, twice in the left arm, and 3 times in the back. The man fires 9 times, then he stops. Silence, save for the gurgling. The man turns away from the Corvair, no emotion, walking back to the car, satisfied. Opens the passenger door when a groan. The man turns at this, walks back to the Corvair. Mike, still alive, in agony. The man raises the gun again, fires 2 more shots into Mike, propelling the body into the back seat, then 2 more into Darlene for good measure. The man lowers the gun, turns, and walks away. Fade to over black, we hear a coin clink into the payphone. 3 numbers dialed.
Vallejo Police Department.
I want to report a double murder. If you go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway to the public park, you will find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye.
Click. The line goes dead. Smash to our title screen. Fade in, exterior San Francisco skyline morning. We're soaring over the water towards the Bay City. Magnificent spires and bridges, bustling to life with morning commuters. It's the first day of August. Interior Graysmith home bathroom morning. Robert Graysmith stands in his robe at his sink, brushing his teeth. Early 30s, dark hair and handsome. Next to him, his youngest child, Brad, brushes his teeth as well, mimicking his father's movements. Graysmith does his top teeth. Brad does his. Graysmith does his bottom teeth. Brad does his. Graysmith smiles. Brad smiles. Graysmith scrubs his tongue. Brad scrubs his.
And spit.
Graysmith spits. Brad does not.
I swallowed it.
Why?
It was minty.
Graysmith laughs and scoops Brad up, heading off to dress his son, humming. Brad attempts to hum too. Interior living room morning. Cal, Graysmith's older son, watching the news.
Responsible for 6 rapes. Arresting officer Inspector David Toschi declined to comment.
On TV, David Toschi going up police headquarters steps, waving off reporters, tall and dark with an omnipresent bow tie.
Sources inside the department peg Toschi as a possible future candidate for chief. And how about that bow tie, Sally? Sally?
Can't beat it, Steve.
Graysmith bounced down the stairs holding Brad.
What are you watching?
Rapists and murderers.
Graysmith frowns and shuts off the TV.
Get your shoes on, we're late.
Brad, meanwhile, has found a word he likes.
Rapist!
Yeah, do daddy a favor and don't yell that while you're preschool, okay?
Rapist!
Much better.
Oh dear. Cal finishes with his boots.
Are we going to see Mom tonight?
No, that's this weekend. Come on, in the car.
Graysmith hustles his family out the door. Exterior San Francisco Chronicle morning. A grand old 3-story building on 5th and Mission. Foot traffic everywhere. The paper's logo above the entrance. We follow a mailman walking briskly towards the front entrance. Mail bag slung over his shoulder. We move to close in on the bag and track with it as the mailman enters. Interior San Francisco Chronicle lobby morning. Vaulted ceilings. The mailman crosses the marble floor, headed for the open elevator doors, passing. Graysmith standing at the coffee cart, purchasing his morning Java, sitting with the vendor and chatting with the vendor. We drop the mailman and stay with him, overhearing.
Liked this morning's cartoon.
Seeing the elevator doors begin to close, Graysmith hurries to catch it, but the door closed before we can reach it, and we plunge between them to resume, following the mailman, standing in the elevators alone. We're close on the bag as he ascends 3 stories, doors opening onto interior San Francisco Chronicle 3rd floor morning. Phone rings, typewriters clack, reporters hustle, the controlled chaos of a major paper's editorial offices. The mailman exiting the elevator, taking a left onto interior mailroom morning, where we He dumps his mailbag into a sorting desk. We stay on the letter pile as Lucy, the mailroom worker, begins to sort through them. We follow one letter in particular. Lucy sorts it into the mail cart. Through the door, we see Graysmith grumpily emerging from the elevator, and we leave the letter to pick him up again, walking down the interior San Francisco Chronicle hallways morning as he balances coffee, a sketchbook, and a morning paper in his hands. Rounding a corner, we see reporter Paul Avery, who plucks Graysmith's coffee and takes a swig.
Doesn't it bother you that I earn the accolades of the entire city of San Francisco as a crack investigative journalist while you basically draw funny pictures for a living?
Every night before I go to sleep, I cry a little more.
And behind them, the mail cart emerges from the mailroom, pushed by Lucy, who begins distributing letters. Focus in on the special letter as it passes Graysmith and Avery, who take a left onto interior Graysmith office morning. The cluttered office of an editorial cartoonist, rough sketches everywhere, almost as many books crowd shelves here as at home. Graysmith dumps his stuff into the desk.
How are the kids?
Dealing with it.
She moved out yet?
Graysmith nods, doesn't want to talk about it. Avery decides to keep things light, glances at some of the sketches.
Nixon with a big nose. You truly are a master of political subtlety.
That's what I've been saying for years. Finally, someone gets me.
Want to grab lunch later?
Sure.
Avery smiles and leaves, and as we follow him back onto the hallways where he heads back to the desk again, passing the mail cart. Empty now, except for the special letter, and we follow it as Lucy wheels the cart towards a large closed door marked Editor-in-Chief. And Lucy takes the letter and slips it through the slot. We now follow it into Interior Editor-in-Chief's office morning as it lands in the inbox of the Chronicle publisher Charles de Young Theiriot. Glances up from his coffee, curious, he scoops it up, slices it open, and pulls out the first page. Scanning down the chicken scrawl words, his eyes go wide. Cut to interior Graysmith's office later. Graysmith looks up from his desk. Through the glass partition, he sees the entire editorial staff gathered in the conference room. Strange. Something's going on. Graysmith rises curious, leaving his office headed for the interior editorial conference room day. The editorial staff of the Chronicle stands around a long mahogany conference table. Avery and 16 others, as they head towards Theiriot, gave grave look on his face.
It arrived in the Morning Post.
The handwritten letter on the table in front of him.
It's Avery's story if we run with it. You want to do the honors?
A strange silence. Avery slowly picks up the letter unnoticed. Graysmith slips it into the back of the room.
Dear editor, this is the murderer.
He stops, shocked.
Yeah.
This is the murderer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman and the girl on the 4th of July near the golf course in Vallejo. To prove I killed them, I shall state some facts which only I and the police know.
He looks up at the others, sees Graysmith in the back, face white.
Christmas, brand name of ammo, Super X. 10 shots were fired. The boy was on his back with his feet to the car. The girl.
He pauses. This is hard to comprehend.
The girl was on her right side, feet to the west. July 4th, one girl was wearing patterned slacks.
Flash cut to Darlene Lane behind the Corvair's wheel covered in blood. We see the patterned slacks among the dark red stains.
The boy was also shot in the knee. Brand name of ammo was Western.
Back to scene. Graysmith swallows hard. Avery continuing.
Here is part of a cipher. The other 2 parts of the cipher are being mailed to the editors of the Vallejo Times and SF Examiner.
Next page, full of strange symbols. A code.
Gotta be kidding.
I want you to print this cipher on the front page of your paper. In this cipher is my identity. If you do not print this cipher by the afternoon of Fry, the 1st of August 69, I will go on a kill rampage Fry night. I will cruise around all weekend killing lone people in the night, then move on to kill again until I...
He looks over at Theiriot.
Until I end up with a dozen people over the weekend. It's unsigned except for a symbol.
Avery puts the letter down. Other editors move forward to examine it, seeing the symbol. It's a circle with a plus sign through it, or cross. Lost among them, Graysmith picks the code.
Called Vallejo. They confirmed the murders did occur. A couple shot to death in December and another last month. The boy survived. The girl didn't.
Graysmith turns the cipher over in his hands. Dozens of weird symbols litter the page in unbroken block paragraphs.
Not to be a nervous Nelly, but today is August 1st. This guy wants the code in the afternoon edition.
So we print it.
The entire room turns at this, surprised that Graysmith's even there. Theiriot gives him a funny look.
Last time I checked, I was the publisher, Robert.
Another editor steps forward.
Look, we run this, we set a precedent. Threaten to kill people, and you can get the Chronicle to print whatever you want.
And if the guy makes good and kills 12 people this weekend?
Remind me again what a cartoonist is doing here?
An awkward beat. Everyone stares at Graysmith. Theiriot looks at him apologetic, showing him the door.
We'll let you know what we decide, Robert. Bye-bye.
Interior Graysmith's office day. Graysmith stands by his overstuffed bookshelf, scanning his many volumes for something useful. Through the glass partition, we see the meeting conclude without him. The other men in the room file out. Avery walks over.
They're going to run it, and they're sending the code over to Naval Intelligence. What are you doing?
Graysmith has climbed into the office chair, now on tiptoes, trying to retrieve something from the top shelf.
I think I have a book on serial killers somewhere.
Cut off as 10 books shower down on him. Avery watches amused as Graysmith tries to clean them up.
Yeah. It could be a crank. Even if the details do match up, it could still...
Paul, have you ever seen anything like that letter before?
A beat. They both know it's not a crank.
Look, if this guy is egotistical enough to write us, much less give us a code with his identity in it, he's going to get caught. Shit, he wants to get caught.
He's not going to give his name.
How do you know that?
Graysmith looks up at him.
Would you?
Interior San Francisco Public Library afternoon. Graysmith and his boys loaded down with kids' books. The librarian smiles as she checks them out. They're regulars.
Did you find everything you needed, Mr. Graysmith?
Lorax!
We have the Lorax at home. Actually, Patty, do you have anything on serial killers?
The librarian, shocked, whispers, huffy.
I'm certain this institution doesn't carry anything of that sort.
Brad, meanwhile, finding another phrase he likes.
Serial killer! Serial killer! Woo! Serial killer!
Brad.
Serial killer! Serial killer!
The librarian is appalled, as is this reader. Brad happily begins to sing.
Serial killer! Serial killer!
And someone else that's going to become a serial killer, drawing stares from other patrons. The librarian, desperate to get out of there, she practically trips over her feet, running to the stacks.
I'll check in the back.
Brad gleefully finishes up his new song.
Serial killer! Pow!
And with that note, exterior library evening. Graysmith and the kids bound down the front steps, each carrying huge stacks of serial killer books.
Nice work.
Brad grins back happily. Interior Graysmith's home office evening. A desk and walls off the living room, cluttered with overstuffed bookshelves and bulletin boards. Graysmith clears the space and deposits the new books on the desk. Looks around at the old bulletin boards, most of them covered with reproductions of James Bond novel covers. He sighs, deciding he takes one down, clearing a space on the wall, then begins taking the plastic wrap off a new bulletin board. Cal and Brad watch from the living room.
Uh-oh.
What's uh-oh?
Dad bought a new bulletin board.
Uh-oh.
Graysmith takes out a copy of the cipher, tacks it onto the center of the board as we push in on the symbols.
All right, people, listen up.
Interior Naval Base San Diego night. Superimpose U.S. Naval Intelligence cryptography. A group of 10 cryptographers sit around a table with the cipher. The project leader addresses them.
The cipher's broken into 3 sections. Each one is 8 lines with 17 symbols each.
Interior Government Building, Washington, D.C. night. Superimpose U.S. Department of Defense Code Intel, a similar gathering of code breakers.
Each chunk was sent to a different California newspaper. No way to differentiate in what order they should appear in the overall cipher.
Interior FBI Building, San Francisco night. Another gathering of the code breakers. Superimpose Federal Bureau of Investigation.
There are no breaks between the symbols denoting different words, no numbers or clues to demonstrate substitution keys.
Interior CIA Building, Langley, Virginia night. Row upon row of code breakers hard to work at work. Superimpose Central Intelligence Agency decryption.
The symbols themselves are taken from no less than 7 different sources. Contained within the cipher are Greek characters, Morse code, alphabet letters, Navy semaphore, weather symbols, astrological signs.
Striding past one harried analyst who runs his fingers through his hair in frustration.
Fucking thing's unbreakable!
Interior suburban house, Salinas, California morning. Superimpose residents of Donald Hardin breakfast nook. A married couple, Donald and Bet Hardin, sit drinking orange juice and pursuing their morning papers. Donald examines the printed code. He studies it. A beat.
You see this code thing?
Uh-huh.
Another beat.
Want to take a crack at it?
Interior Graysmith home office morning. Graysmith surrounded by books on serial killers, pouring through fascinated, dark circles under his eyes. Cal comes bounding down the stairs, stops when he sees his dad.
Were you up all night?
These books are amazing. You know the last guy to commit murders and then write the press about them was? He actually taunted the public. They still don't know his real name, but they called him Jack the Ripper.
Cal takes this in.
I'm going to get some Cheerios.
He heads to the kitchen. Graysmith goes back to reading. The phone rings. Graysmith answers before he can say hello.
They cracked the code.
Graysmith drops the book.
FBI? Naval Intelligence?
A history teacher and his wife in Salinas.
You're kidding.
Nope. You were right, by the way. He doesn't give his name.
So what does it say?
A beat.
You better come in.
Interior Graysmith office morning. Graysmith reading the translation, his face white, Avery next to him. We pan down the words typed in block letters. I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill. Something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part is it's that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise and they have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name because you will not try to slot down or atop my collecting of slaves for the afterlife. I have no idea what that part says. Silence. Graysmith shaken. Avery too.
Why the hell is he even writing us in the first place?
Govinden believes that for some sociopaths, the revelation of the act is the completion of it.
And Govinden is who?
I read a couple books. What are those letters at the bottom?
Leftovers. Maybe an anagram of his name?
Graysmith shakes his head.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Man is the most dangerous animal of all.
It's like that short story, The Most Dangerous Game.
Don't know it.
Psycho guy has his own island, hunts men for sport. Don't you ever read?
Don't you ever not?
The phrasing is pretty specific. I should get a copy of the story.
Avery stares at him, realizing.
You started a bulletin board, didn't you?
A beat.
Maybe.
Robert, you know how you get when you're into something. You obsess.
I don't obsess. I just get interested.
Like when you drove to Pomona at 3 in the morning because you heard there was a guy selling his 4th edition of Hound of the Baskervilles.
3rd edition, and that wasn't obsessive. I just happened to be a fan of literature.
At 3 in the morning?
I couldn't sleep.
I'm just saying I have to be close to this because I'm covering the story. But if I wasn't, I'd get as far away from this case as I could.
From outside the office.
We got another letter!
Graysmith and Avery exchange a look and sprint out the door. Interior editorial conference room morning. The editorial staff huddled around the table, already going through the various pages. Graysmith and Avery pushed through the crowd, bumping into Theiriot.
It's mostly more of the same. Details about the murders.
He taped a flashlight to the barrel of his gun. That's how he could hit them in the dark.
The asshole editor eyes Graysmith.
Robert, we talked about your presence here.
Graysmith ignores him, staring down the pages.
He gave himself a name.
And we push in on the first line of the letter. Dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking. Dissolved to exterior Pacific Union College campus day. Rolling fields in the brick buildings, two college kids walk hand in hand across the campus. Young, pretty, smitten, they are Bryan Hartnell and Cecelia Shepard. Superimpose, Napa County, California, September 27th, 1969.
So, what do you want to do on our last day together, Miss Shepard?
Have fun. Let's go to San Francisco, eat lots of takeout, get drunk.
Bryan laughs, turns and kisses her on the forehead.
Actually, I have a better idea, but you have to trust me.
It's clear she does, smiling, gazing into his eyes. Exterior Forest Road afternoon. Bryan's white Volkswagen Carmen Ghia convertible speeds around a winding road carved out of the forest above Lake Berryessa, the only car around for miles.
Where is everybody?
It's off season.
Cecelia gazes down at the huge placid lake.
There used to be a town down there. The county decided the land would work better as a lake, so they flooded it. There's an entire hidden city under the water.
Cecelia takes in the vista, amazed.
So, better than bad San Francisco takeout?
Exterior Lake Berryessa, twilight. The sun creeping down, the lights gone golden. Bryan and Cecelia lie down side by side on the peninsula that sticks 300 yards out from the shore. Surrounded on three sides by water, it has a small grove of trees and a picnic table at the end of it. No one else in sight. You can see for miles in literally every direction. Bryan on his back facing away from the shore, Cecelia on her stomach facing towards it. She sees something, a figure, 250 yards away in the brush. He seems to be looking at them.
Somebody else is here.
It's a public park.
I think he's watching us.
Well, we're very good looking.
Cecelia playfully swats at him. He tickles her back. She laughs and rolls away from his hands. Looking back at the brush, a figure. Gone.
Where'd he go?
Don't worry about it. Probably a park ranger.
He wasn't.
Then a hunter.
There.
Bryan rolls over to look at her. We see nothing.
Where?
He just up behind the tree.
She points. The large oak, only 20 feet away, much closer than the figure was.
How'd he get so close without me seeing him?
Bryan opens his mouth to respond when a man in black steps out from behind the tree. A black hood hangs over the man's head like a four-corner execution mask. Slits cut for eye holes and over them sunglasses. The hood's front covers his chest like a bib with a cross stitched into it, which quarters a circle, the symbol of the Zodiac. Protruding from the man's jacket is some white hollow core plastic clothesline. A sheathed bayonet hangs from his left side as at least a foot long. On his right hangs a leather holster, flap open, empty. Empty because the man holds the gun in his hand. Bryan and Cecelia frozen in fear. Neither speaks. A surreal amount of time passes as the man walks over to them. Other than the gun, he makes no offensive moves. He reaches them, stands over them, guns pointed down. Then,
I want your money and your car keys. I need the car to go to Mexico.
Bryan exhales in relief. Just a robbery.
I'm going to get my keys and wallet out of my pocket, okay? Don't shoot. I won't.
The man seems very calm. Bryan reaches into his pocket and pulls out the keys, hands them to the man. Bryan pulls out his wallet, checks it. No bills, only some change.
I only have 76 cents. 76 cents. I'm flat broke.
But the man takes it, pockets it, and hoisters the gun. Bryan and Cecelia relax a little.
Don't get any ideas. Don't try and grab the gun.
You won't, right?
Right. Why Mexico? I killed a man.
Cecelia blanches.
Prison guard. I was in prison in Deer Lodge, Montana. I had to kill a guard to escape. What were you in for?
The man eyes Bryan, Cecelia explaining.
He's a sociology major.
Listen, all I have is that change, but if you really need help, maybe there are other things we can do. Time's too short. I'll just take the car. Thank you, though. You're welcome. Lie on your stomach. I'm going to have to tie you up. Oh, come on, man. I have to, so you don't follow me. Just do it, and then I'll go.
Bryan looks at Cecelia. She just wants this over. Bryan sighs and rolls onto his stomach. The man takes a section of clothesline and tosses it to Cecelia.
Tie him, feet to hands.
Cecelia does, loosely. The man stands watching a short distance away, Bryan to Cecelia as she works.
Get him closer. I think I can get the gun.
She eyes the holstered weapons and shakes her head.
Just do what he says and he'll go.
Bryan doesn't like it, but he goes along. Cecelia finishes.
Now you.
Cecelia lies down in her stomach too. The man takes a second length of rope and hog ties her as well. Feet to hands, tight. She grunts as the rope tightens.
Sorry, I'm getting nervous.
He finishes and stands, goes back over to Bryan.
She tied you loose, didn't she? Just hang on.
He reties Bryan as tight as Cecelia, then stands looking down at the two hog-tied kids.
Now that this is over, can I ask you something? Sure. Was that gun really loaded? Why wouldn't it be loaded? Well, sometimes in robberies.
He trails off as the man takes out the gun and pops the clip, showing Bryan the bullets.
Good thing you didn't try and grab it, huh? Yeah.
Silence. The man's not leaving. Bryan figures out why.
My car's up on the road. Just cut straight through there and you'll find it.
The man nods slowly, then leans down between Bryan and Cecelia, almost apologetically.
I'm going to have to stab you people.
The shock goes through Bryan and Cecelia. The man slowly draws the foot-long bayonet from his scabbard.
Please don't.
I have to.
Please.
He shushes her. She begins to cry. Then he looks between them as if choosing. Bryan swallows hard.
Do me first. I'm chicken. I couldn't stand to see her stabbed.
The man moves towards Bryan.
I'll do just that.
He kneels on Bryan, full weight on him, knees in his back. He raises the knife, and dear God, we're actually going to have to watch this. He plunges the knife deep in between Bryan's shoulders, rips it out, plunges it again, rips it out, plunges it again. Blood flowing on Cecelia, crimson flecks on her face, and she's screaming. Bryan's face in a daze, jarred forcibly every time the man stabs down, tearing through the meat, tearing through him. His eyes glazed, find Cecilia's.
Don't look.
But she can't stop looking or screaming. The man lurches off Bryan, finished. In a bachelal daze, he turns with the bayonet and hacks down into Cecelia. She tries to roll. He just keeps stabbing her side, her chest, to the hilt. Steel rips flesh and cracks bone. The man's knuckles covered with gore. Still, she screams. On Bryan's blood-splashed face, dazed eyes still locked with Cecilia's, in hell, unable to help, only to watch, her screaming now choked with liquid. The man hits an artery in her chest, the blood fountains. Bryan can't take it. He breaks her gaze, leaving the man to continue his work on Cecelia. Cut to Exterior Forest Road night. Later, above the lake, bathed in red and blue police lights and cordoned off, we move through the crowd of cops towards Bryan's Volkswagen. Scrawled in marker on the driver's door is the sign of the Zodiac. Vallejo, 12/20/68, 7/4/69, September 27th, 69, 6:30 by knife. Cut to close on Graysmith's fingers gripping a pencil sketching.
3 dates on the car door. The 2 Vallejo killings and now the one in Napa. Why Napa?
Pulling back to reveal it's a sketch of Zodiac in costume.
What's doing out of Vallejo? Did he follow the victims? Admittedly, the lake is perfect isolated location, but still.
What are you drawing?
By now, we can tell we're in interior Graysmith's office morning.
The kid who survived it at the lake, Bryan Hartnell. This is what he said Zodiac was wearing.
Avery takes it, creepy.
And then there's the weapon change. Guns at the Vallejo scenes, but now knife and rope. Serial killers don't usually change weapons.
Overhearing, Theiriot pokes his head into the office.
Zodiac?
He started a bulletin board.
God help us all.
Did he tell you his most dangerous game theory yet?
No, but please, Robert, regale us.
But Graysmith isn't listening. Instead, he snatches the drawing back from Avery, studying it intently.
Are you okay?
Graysmith's eyes go wide as it clicks.
Oh my God.
Interior San Francisco Public Library evening. At the table, Graysmith frantically pages through a film book. Avery across him, confused, looking around.
We're at the library. Why are we at the library?
Here.
He turns the book to Avery and stabs the page. Avery looks, a black and white film still from an old movie. A man dressed identically as the Zodiac. Avery looks back up, stunned.
What is this?
The evil character of Count Zaroff in the 1932 silent adaptation of The Most Dangerous Game. Paul, he's hunting people.
Graysmith and Avery stare at each other as we pre-lap the opening of Credence Bad Moon Rising. Dissolve to TV news.
The following is an advisory for all Northern California residents.
I see a bad moon rising. Exterior various fast food restaurants night. Once teeming with teenagers, now deserted after sundown.
Please keep your children inside after dark.
I see trouble on the way. Exterior Lovers Lane night, also deserted. We see several cars driving off.
If any parents are concerned about sons or daughters sneaking off to lovers' lanes.
I see earthquakes and lightning. Interior teenagers' house night.
We suggest you allow them to neck inside your house.
A teenage boy and girl fencing on the couch. An unhappy dad watches from the doorway. Better this than dead. I see bad times today. Exterior Vallejo Town Square night. Dozens of candles and pictures of victims lay on a shrine. The American flag still flying at half mast. Don't go around tonight. Exterior Napa Police Headquarters night. Angry picketers hold signs with anti-police and Zodiac messages, shouting at the cops. 'Cause it's bound to take your life. Interior Yellow Cab night. The cab pulling to a stop in a posh part of the city. The sidewalks are deserted. There's a bad moon on the rise. As the Credence song concludes on the radio.
That's 650.
Boom! The cab's head explodes into the windshield and dashboard, showering it with gore. He slumps, obviously dead, shot by his passenger, who we don't see. Silence as we begin to pull away from the bloody cab. Superimposed San Francisco, October 10th, 1969. Interior Graysmith's home night. The upper hallway. Graysmith walking past his son's room, overhearing.
Zodiac.
Graysmith stops, dropping.
Eavesdropping, I love it. Is Daddy gonna catch him?
Of course not.
Why?
Grow up, Brad. Dad's just a cartoonist.
Graysmith's face falls. Interior Brad and Cal's room night.
Then who is gonna catch him?
The same people who always catch the bad guys.
The good guy?
Cal smiles at his younger brother.
Yeah, the good guy.
Interior bedroom night. A married couple, asleep. The phone rings. The man groggily reaches for it, misses, knocks over the bedside lamp. Crash.
Ah, crap.
Wife Carol switches on her lamp. The man sits up and we get our first real look at Inspector Dave Toschi. Handsome, Italian-American, and pretty decent-looking guy. Bleary-eyed, he answers the phone.
Whoever this is, you owe me one lamp.
Yellow cab driver's been shot 3 blocks from the Presidio.
I didn't do it. I've been with Carol all night. She can vouch.
Pick me up in 20.
Let me just describe the lamp you're going to buy me. It's a mahogany base with stained glass shade.
Click.
Hello?
Exterior San Francisco street corner night. A lone cop stands waiting, plain clothes, silver hair, kind face. This is Bill Armstrong. A car pulls up to the corner, driven by Toschi. Armstrong gets in. Interior, Toschi's car moving. Night.
I was asleep.
I called operations, had them lock off the cab and get uniforms to secure the crowd.
Seriously, dead asleep. My eyes were closed and everything.
You ever try Japanese food? I mean, I don't mean like sushi. I mean Japanese food.
The non-raw stuff?
Yeah.
No. You?
No. Always wanted to, though.
Why don't you?
Armstrong stares back out the window.
Guess I haven't gotten around to it.
Exterior, Washington and Cherry. Night. Choom. Huge headlights snap on, illuminating the entire block. Uniforms work through the crowd, comparing faces to the physical description they've gotten. MPs guard the scene, being heckled for Vietnam by onlookers. Toschi pulls to a halt at the edge of the circus and gets out along with Armstrong. They take it all in. Toschi straightens his signature bow tie as a uniform approaches.
Looks like a botched cab robbery. We got foot patrols going through the park checking tree to tree, and the dogs are on their way. Victim's name was Paul Lee Stein. Perp fired one shot, back of the head, grabbed the driver's wallet, and tore off a big chunk of his shirt to boot.
Took the driver's shirt?
A piece of his shirt. Most of it's still on him.
That's new.
Witnesses?
Not exactly. 2 kids who called it in clocked the perp from that window.
He points to a 2-story house across the street.
Not a good view. Dark jacket, crew-cut hair, stocky, Caucasian.
You want the body of the scene?
Scene.
Right.
The partners split up, a well-practiced ritual. Armstrong works the crowd. Toschi goes to the body, reaching the cab where lab techs are dusting down the car and photographing the driver who still lies in the bloody front seat.
Tell me a story, Bobby.
Perp wiped the cab pretty good. We're gonna back check prints. Missed against the fare book. New tie?
I hate you.
Toschi flips open his notebook and begins to sketch the scene. He works quickly and methodically, only pausing to use a small tape measure to gauge distances between the head and the dashboard, body and the door, etc. Armstrong walks up.
Nothing from the crowd.
There's a surprise. Got enough?
The photographer nods.
Roll them.
He and Armstrong taking hold of the body as they hoist him.
Having fun yet?
I was asleep.
They roll the body out of the cabin onto the pavement. The crowd murmurs at the sight of the corpse on the street. Toschi leans in to check the cab's floor, discovering
Got a casing. Single. 9 mil.
the photographer leans in, flash bulbs pop, documenting the position of the shiny copper 9mm shell casing. Toschi measures its position, adds it to the sketch.
Tweezers?
The lab tech hands him tweezers. Toschi gingerly bags the casing, then scans the car with a flashlight again, stops seeing something.
What's that?
Armstrong follows the beam. A bloody palm splotch on the passenger divider between the windows.
Right hand?
Toschi nods slowly, thinking it through.
Driver's body was laid out wrong for that. I mean, he wouldn't have reached over that far.
They exchange a look. Only the killer could have made that print. A beat. They both turn to the fingerprint tech.
Bobby?
Interior San Francisco Chronicle mailroom day. Lucy, a mailroom worker, putting letters through an electronic sorter. Close on the return address as they rifle past on high speed. The sorter finishes the batch, stops at the last one. A cross circle on the return address corner. Lucy stares at it, knowing what it means. The address on the front of the blue felt pen. SF Chronicle, San Fran, California. Please rush to editor. Please rush to editor. She takes the letter opener, slices open from the top. Interior Graysmith office day. Graysmith sketching. From down the hall comes Lucy, blood-curdling scream.
This is the Zodiac speaking.
Exterior San Francisco Chronicle day. Toschi and Armstrong push through the revolving doors into the newspaper lobby.
I am the murderer of the taxi driver over by Washington Street and Maple Street last night.
Interior San Francisco Chronicle hallways day. Toschi and Armstrong stride down the corridor towards the conference room, past staring reporters.
To prove this, here is a bloodstained piece of his shirt.
Cut to a 3x5 piece of gray and white shirt cloth, soaked in blood, neatly torn, not cut. It sits on the table. Interior editorial conference room afternoon, surrounded by Graysmith, Avery, Theiriot, and editorial staff. Next to it is the handwritten letter.
I am the same man who did in the people in the North Bay area. The SF police could have caught me last night if they had searched the park properly instead of holding road races. The car drivers should have just parked their cars and sat there quietly waiting for me to come out of cover.
The doors open and Toschi and Armstrong enter. Theiriot raises his feet, handshakes are exchanged.
Charles de Theiriot, publisher of the Chronicle.
Dave Toschi, my partner Bill Armstrong. Where's the shirt?
Theiriot leads him over to the table. Toschi and Armstrong look at the bloodstained cloth. They then share a look. Fuck. Everyone notices.
That's really it, isn't it?
I understand he takes credit for the Stein killing in the letter.
It's worse than that.
The room turns to look at him, the asshole editor.
Robert?
Graysmith frowns. He heads for the door, once again kicked out. When he's gone, Toschi turns back to Theiriot.
What did he mean worse?
Read the last part.
Toschi stands over the letter and does just that.
School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning, just shoot out the front tire and pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. Jesus Christ. Who handles buses? Department of Transportation?
School board, I think.
Toschi heading for the door.
And we'll call from the car. Bag it. Let's go.
Interior Graysmith's office day. Graysmith sees the detectives exit the conference room. He snatches up several of his books and follows them. Toschi and Armstrong in rapid conference as they walk.
We need to lab matches on the, we need lab matches on blood and fabric.
What about handwriting?
Yeah, Sherwood Moral.
Question documents? That's in Sacramento.
They reach the elevator. Toschi stabs the button impatiently.
Yeah, we need the best. I'm gonna call Napa and Vallejo, pull the other letters and get them up to Sherwood.
They're not going to want to cooperate with the big city boys.
Tough.
Excuse me, Inspector?
Toschi and Armstrong turn to see Graysmith, nervously fidgeting, holding the books.
You're the guy they kicked out.
Robert Graysmith. I had a thought about the code.
Code was already broken.
I know, I've been reading these books on ciphers. I thought if we could figure out what book Zodiac used to come up with the code, maybe we could learn more about him.
Or her.
Well, yeah, but serial killers are almost uniformly male.
Armstrong taps his badge, annoyed.
I know.
What if he sends another cipher?
Look, Ronald.
Robert.
Right. You're a reporter?
Cartoonist.
Armstrong rolls his eyes.
Robert, we appreciate that you're trying to help, but we have a lot of qualified people working on this.
The elevator dings open behind the cops. They step in. Toschi gives Graysmith a kind smile.
Just let us handle it, okay?
The doors close behind them. Interior, cluttered office day. Bear claw in his mouth and phone to ear, Moral maneuvers past gingerly balanced reams of files that populate the office. The best handwriting man in the West Coast. Superimpose Sherwood Moral, chief of questioned documents.
3 confirmed Zodiac letters, 1 possible. We need handwriting confirmation on the possible confirmation on the possible fast. He's threatening to take out kids, Sherwood.
I'll have something by tomorrow.
Interior San Francisco Chronicle evening. The third floor offices. Theiriot has gathered the entire staff. We pan across their faces as he speaks.
In cooperation with the police, we will run the Zodiac letter without including the threat on the school children. We do not want to start a citywide panic, so I'm asking all of you to keep this confidential.
Ending on Graysmith, his eyes wrecked with concern.
Just go about your daily routine.
Interior Graysmith home night. Graysmith wearing the same expression, watching his kids from the living room door, horsing around on the couch, his daily business. Their gales of laughter fill the room. Interior office of question documents night. Wearing magnifying glasses, Meryl studies Zodiac letters side by side, tracing the pen strokes with his eyes. Similarities in lowercase r's. Meticulous, slow work. Exterior San Francisco street morning. Graysmith stands on a corner with Cal, who's dressed for school, a little uncomfortable with his father's presence.
You don't have to wait with me.
It's okay. I want to.
Cal rolls his eyes. Whatever, Dad. Graysmith peers down the street. A yellow school bus rounds the corner a few blocks down. Rumbling towards them, he exhales, nervous. Cal slings his backpack over his shoulder as the bus approaches. Graysmith watches his son, preparing to get on, preparing to become a possible Zodiac target. The bus pulls to a stop. The driver cranks open the door. A beat. Cal takes a step forward to get on. Graysmith can't take it and stops him.
Dad,
Graysmith looks at the driver, apologetic.
I'm going to drive him myself today.
The driver shrugs and puts the bus in gear. Graysmith leads a confused Cal back to the house to get in the car. Interior Toschi home morning. Toschi and his wife Carol having breakfast in silence. He looks harried. She notices, concerned.
you're feeling all right.
Toschi doesn't respond, lost in thought. The phone rings. Toschi practically bolts out of his chair to get it.
Hello.
Handwriting's a match.
Television news report.
The Zodiac killer has come to San Francisco.
Cut to shots of the city, concerned citizens, crime photos of Stein's cab, etc.
Confirmation came early this morning that his latest taunting letter takes credit for the murder of San Francisco cab driver Paul Stein, who was shot once in the back of the head, execution style, several nights ago. If you think you know who the Zodiac is, you can call the newly formed tip line at 655-9801.
Interior SFPD basement. Zodiac tip line morning. A lone college intern mans a switchboard. The Zodiac tip line, taking calls as fast as he can, overwhelmed.
I need some help down here.
Interior San Francisco PD homicide unit night. The place has become Zodiac Central. Suspect pictures on every wall, timelines on chalkboards, and stacks of hundreds of slips on desk. All Zodiac tips. Armstrong flipping through his stack.
Guy who lives down the street from me is a Zodiac. A guy in my church is the Zodiac. Guy down the street, guy down the street, guy in my AA meeting, guy down the street.
Interrupted by their captain, Martin Lee, who strides out of his office, taking in the new Zodiac-themed decor.
Where's the name?
The what?
Our suspect, Inspector. Who is he?
Toschi taps a huge stack of files.
Got about 300 of them.
With at least 100 new ones coming in a day.
Northern California is in a full-on state of panic, and you have 300 suspects.
Well, really only about 90 of these are good suspects.
I've detailed you 8 detectives. Get it done.
Interior coffee room afternoon. Toschi and Armstrong sit in silence on torn couches in the cops' makeshift lounge. Tired. Door alone.
We're not going to luck our way through this one, are we?
Armstrong shakes his head, sips his coffee.
This guy's different. This guy's...
Armstrong is quiet for a long time. Then
It's a career killer, Dave.
Toschi looks up.
All the attention, all the press. We don't put this one down, it puts us down. You hear what I'm saying?
Toschi nods slowly.
This one's all or nothing.
A secretary pokes her head in, interrupting.
Toschi, you got Paul Avery from the Chronicle on line 2?
Toschi grabs a phone and punches through the call.
Oh,
Interior Avery's office afternoon. Avery typing a Zodiac article, phone cradled in his shoulder, intercut.
I need a quote for the article.
we're pursuing all leads.
That'll really set the front page on fire, thanks.
Toschi about to hang up when...
Hey, I heard you were accosted by our cartoonist on the way out.
Yeah, what's the deal with that guy?
Oh, Robert's the original Boy Scout.
What do you mean?
Let me put it this way. I asked him once why he became a cartoonist. You know what he said? Because he wants to change the world. He doesn't drink, smoke, or curse. He dotes on his kids. He gives to every charity he can find.
For a cartoonist, he was pretty interested in the case.
Well, Robert doesn't get interested. He gets swallowed whole. I'll tell you something else, though.
He looks through a glass partition in the office to see Graysmith working at his desk.
I've never seen him start anything he didn't finish.
Interior Graysmith's home office night. Many of the old books' covers are gone, replaced by Zodiac case evidence. Newspaper clippings of Avery's articles, photos of the victims, and photocopies of the letters. Graysmith poring over them when
You okay, Dad?
Graysmith looks up startled to see his oldest son at the door. He gives his boy a reassuring smile.
Of course.
Been weird lately with all this Zodiac stuff.
It's just a hobby.
Like the book collecting.
Yeah, like the book collecting.
Cal studies him, not buying it. He turns to go.
Cal,
Cal turns back.
I'm going to keep driving you and your brother to school for a while, okay?
Cal shrugs. Another, whatever, Dad. He climbs the stairs to bed. Graysmith watches his son go, his whole world. He turns back to his work, re-examining the first Zodiac letter, scanning until he reaches the line. 4th July. 1. Girl was wearing a patterned slacks. He frowns, rereads the line, circles it. Interior Avery's office morning.
How did he know what she was wearing?
Avery looks up at Graysmith entered.
What?
Darlene Farron, Zodiac writes that she was wearing patterned slacks.
And she was.
He walks up to the car in total darkness, shoots him with a flashlight taped to his gun, walks away instantly, but he remembers her pants?
Avery sighs.
I'm sure if it were something, Toschi would have picked up on it by now.
Interior San Francisco PD Homicide Unit morning.
How did Zodiac know what Darlene Farron was wearing?
Armstrong looks up from his coffee. Toschi's standing over him, holding a report.
Mike Mageau's statement. Zodiac never lingered by the car, never took stock of the scene.
You think the key to the Zodiac case lies within a woman's pants? There's a joke in there somewhere.
Get in touch with Vallejo. We need a complete workup on Darlene. Who she knew, who knew her, friends, enemies, the whole shebang. Meantime, let's talk about the print in the cab.
Exterior San Francisco streets day. Graysmith and Avery stroll down the street, eating hot dogs, having the same discussion.
The print Zodiac left in the cab, they run it through some sort of database?
Combined database, local and federal. You ever been arrested? They have your print.
Interior San Francisco PD Homicide Unit day.
There's no match for the print in the database.
This man's killed 4 people in cold blood. How is it possible for someone that psychotic to have never been fingerprinted before? Hell, how is it possible he left one in the first place?
Exterior San Francisco streets day.
Think about it, 4 crime scenes. 2 in Vallejo, 1 in Berryessa, 1 here. No prints at the Vallejo scenes, no prints at Berryessa, and no prints on the letters. And every surviving Zodiac victim says the killer wore gloves.
Interior San Francisco PD Homicide Unit day.
How does our master criminal suddenly come to San Francisco and leave a bloody latent for the world to see? I mean, he wiped down the fucking cab, but managed to miss this one?
Exterior San Francisco streets day.
There's something else. First attack, David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, both die. But from there on out, he only manages to kill the women.
Not for lack of trying.
Interior San Francisco PD Homicide Unit day.
That's not the point. But the second attack, Mike Mageau lives, Darlene Farron dies. Third attack, Bryan Hartnell lives, Cecelia Shepard dies.
Exterior San Francisco streets day.
He gets so caught up with the women, he forgets to finish off the men.
Interior San Francisco PD Homicide Unit day.
They were all couples, all in Lover's Lane type spots. And then there's the water thing.
Exterior San Francisco streets day.
Well, geographically, every attack took place near either a physical body of water or something with a water-based name.
Interior San Francisco PD Homicide Unit day.
Lake Herman Road, Blue Rock Springs Road, and Lake Berryessa.
Exterior San Francisco streets day.
A single male cab driver killed on the corner of Washington and Cherry Streets doesn't fit the profile.
Interior San Francisco PD homicide unit day. Toschi sighs, rubbing his temples.
The fuck is this guy doing in San Francisco, Dave?
Exterior San Francisco streets day. Graysmith and Avery have reached the steps of the Chronicle.
Maybe he's breaking the profile.
Interior San Francisco PD homicide unit day. Toschi shakes his head, considering from off screen.
You guys better get over here.
Toschi and Armstrong hurry into the coffee room where they find a group of cops watching a press conference on TV.
In the interest of California families, I felt it was imperative you receive this information now. The Zodiac has threatened to wipe out a school bus and pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing off.
Toschi curses loudly. Interior San Francisco PD basement, Zodiac type tip line day. As all 50 lights on the tip line switchboard go red, clogged with calls, the college kid overwhelmed.
Holy shit!
Exterior bus garage night. Toschi and Armstrong walk briskly from their car, passing rows of school buses on the way to a large garage. Toschi looking grim, wearing his game face.
You don't have to do this.
I want to.
Before you go in, I talked to Vallejo. Darlene Ferrin was being followed.
Toschi stops in his tracks.
What?
Vallejo PD was already onto it.
And they didn't tell us?
Zodiac's their holy grail, Dave. They want to close it first. Anyway, this guy would come by where she waitressed, get into fights with her, that kind of thing. When she and her hubby moved into their new digs, they threw a painting party.
What's a painting party?
That's a party where people come over and help you paint. I talked to Darlene's sisters, Pam and Linda. Apparently, this guy showed up and Darlene was scared shitless of him. Stocky, balding, glasses.
Our Zodiac description.
Yeah.
What's the name?
Sisters can't remember. Said it was short, like a nickname or something.
Rick? John? Sam?
I don't know. Vallejo's on it.
Fuck Vallejo. We gotta be on it.
Darlene died in their jurisdiction, Dave. Gotta let them take the lead.
This is the guy, Bill.
Maybe. But in the meantime, our job is the Stein murder and keeping those people alive.
Interior bus garage night. A collection of bus drivers sit in folding chairs, smoking, bleary-eyed. Toschi sits in front, looking just as bad.
Your number one priority is the kids. You hear gunshots, you tell them to get down on the ground below the windows. You lay on the horn and keep driving. This guy's a marksman, so he'd probably go for the tires first. If he manages to hit one, you drive on the fucking rims till you get to a well-populated area, then duck and cover with the kids.
On the drivers, Shell's shocked. Toschi rubs his brow.
Look, I know this is nuts. I know you didn't even sign up for this. But we're going to do everything we can.
Like what?
Toschi, surprised by the interruption, looks to see a large woman bus driver in a second row.
Cops always sling that bullshit. I got 3 kids too scared of Zodiac to go near the windows in our house, much less to school. So what are you doing for them?
A general murmuring of support from the other drivers. Toschi shocked into silence.
That's what I thought. Come on, Sully.
The woman and several others rise to leave in disgust. Toschi watches them go, paralyzed. Finally,
I will find this man.
the woman turns back to see Toschi standing up, arms at his sides, staring her in the eyes, deadly serious.
I will find this man and I will put him in jail. I will make the city safe again. I swear to God.
This has become more than a case to him. The woman sees this in his eyes. She and the others retake their seats. Interior Graysmith's car moving, morning. Graysmith driving the kids to school, stone-faced. Cal watching him from the back, knowing why his father was so insistent on driving them. No one speaks. Both boys scared. As we hear helicopters soar overhead, exterior San Francisco skyline morning. The police helicopter cuts through the sky, tracking a school bus as it begins its morning route. A sniper sits by a chopper door, rifle at the ready.
Principal is taking a left on mission. Situation is 5 by.
As the bus takes a left, the chopper soars out of frame. Following across the city, we see dozens of similar choppers, all tracking buses. Exterior Napa County morning. A small plane zooms over wooded mountains. A school bus drives in the road carved out below. A similar situation. Superimposed Napa County, California. Interior school bus moving morning. Elementary school kids horse around. Hair is pulled. Fart jokes are made. It's your typical dull roar of noise. The driver scans the empty road in front of him, nervous. A girl's scream from the back of the bus jolts him. He swerves, eyes flying to the huge rear view. She's smiling, screaming because a boy she likes gave her a noogie. The kids don't even notice the swerve. The driver wipes his brow, chuckles to himself, then takes a gulp of coffee. And that's when it happens. Boom! An explosion that sounds like a shotgun blast. Hot coffee splatters across the driver's lap as the bus careens across the center lane, struggling to maintain control.
Get to the floor. Hug the floor.
Screaming and crying for real now. The kids hit the deck. Keeping his head below the dash, the diver floors it. Just trying to make it to the populated area, he keys his radio.
He's here.
Exterior town square morning. Pedestrians look up at the school bus, screams around a corner. Sparks shooting from the rim, scraping the concrete as molten chunks of rubber fly off the ruined black tire. The driver slams on the brakes and the bus skidding up into the curb as a large grassy square. Children pour screaming out of the bus and drivers shouting as they run.
Get to cover.
Pandemonium. The pedestrians scatter, caught up in the panic. Several of their kids trip halfway across the grass. The driver, ducking any potential sniper shots, goes back, scooping one up under each arm. And under 30 seconds, the town square empties. Silence. Interior Avery's office night. Avery tapes up the headline, City of Fear. Where will Zodiac strike next? Graysmith reading over his shoulder.
Bus driver in Napa had a blowout, thought he was getting shot at.
But wasn't. The whole state's going nuts over this thing.
I've been thinking I should tell the cops about the most dangerous game.
They already put it together. They're cops, Robert. It's what they do. Do yourself a favor. Go back to collecting books.
Interior Toschi's home evening. Toschi sits at his easy chair, big band on the phonograph, reading The Most Dangerous Game. Carol walks past.
Business or pleasure?
Business.
He doesn't look up. She watches him.
How's it going?
Fine.
A beat.
Why won't you talk to me about this case, David?
Before he can answer, the phone rings. He goes to it.
Toschi.
You better come in.
Interior San Francisco PD Homicide Unit night as Toschi walks through the door.
Andrew Walker. That's the name of the man who was following Darlene Farron.
Holy shit. Do they...
They've got him. Have since last night. Tip came from Darlene's older sister, Pam.
Andrew for Andy. Andy's his nickname. And the other sister said...
He's the one from the painting party.
And they got him.
Dave.
Just in the handwriting. And
they did it already. Handwriting and prints, no match.
Toschi blinks, not comprehending.
What? No, the one who was following her.
Yes, and his handwriting and fingerprints don't match Zodiac. It's a dead end, Dave. He's not the guy.
Silence. Toschi looks up at him.
You know what that means, don't you?
Armstrong shakes his head.
Someone else is going to die.
Exterior Highway 132 night. Outside of Modesto, it's late. Almost no one on the road. A lone duster of a sedan rattles down the highway. Superimposed March 22nd, 1970. Interior sedan, moving, night. Kathleen Johns is at the wheel, sweet face, 30s, guzzling coffee, trying to stay awake. Checks the rear view. Nobody. Changes lanes. As if from nowhere, headlights are suddenly behind her. Deja vu for us, just strange for her. Kathleen signals, changes lanes so the headlights can pass. They don't. They pull up behind her, flashing now. Kathleen frowns, keeps driving. The other driver becomes more insistent, honking, motioning for her to pull over. Finally, she does, pulling to a halt on the shoulder of the road. The other car pulls in behind her. And as it does, we pan down to see Kathleen's sleeping baby on the passenger seat next to her. A man gets out of his car and walks up. We don't see his face. Kathleen, nervous, thinking maybe this wasn't the best idea, she reaches for a key to restart the car when
I hope I didn't scare you. Your right wheel is loose.
Kathleen relaxes, feeling dumb for being scared.
Really?
I didn't want you to wreck and get stranded. I could tighten the lugs for you.
Would you?
Can't be too careful out here.
He goes back to his car and retrieves a lug wrench, kneels down behind her back tire out of sight. He's down there a long time. Kathleen checks her rear view, can't see him, just as she's getting nervous again.
All done.
She turns. He's standing by the passenger door.
Cute baby. Have a good night.
Well, that's a different part. He walks away. Kathleen breathes a huge sigh of relief. She starts the car and puts it into drive. She only gets 50 yards when her right wheel crunches off the axle in a shower of sparks. Kathleen fights for control as the sedan swerves all over the road. She wrenches the wheel right, finally manages to pilot to the shoulder. Silence. Kathleen sits there, breathing hard.
Are you okay?
She jumps at his voice. He's right by the door again.
Must have been worse than I thought. I could give you a lift to the service station.
I don't want to be a bother.
No bother. Come on.
He opens her door for her. Kathleen, deciding, she gathers up her baby and follows the man to his parked car. Interior man's car night, a complete mess. Trash and wrappers everywhere. Kathleen slides in the passenger seat, putting her baby on her lap. The man shifts into drive. They pull back into the highway, riding in silence. Quite fast, too. Kathleen uncomfortable.
So do you always go around helping people on the road like this?
The man staring off the passing woods.
When I get through with them, they don't need help.
And they're speeding up, doing near 70. The man cranking down his window. Howling air fills the car. Kathleen's baby whines at the cold.
Shh, it's okay. Mommy's here.
The man looks over at her casually.
I'm going to throw your baby out the window.
Kathleen's face turns in horror as we cut to interior San Francisco Chronicle Graysmith office night. Graysmith packs up his things when Avery enters. One look at his face says it all. Graysmith stops what he's doing.
Zodiac?
A woman and her baby.
Graysmith can't form words, but we realize the look on Avery's face. It's not shock. It's amazement.
No, Robert, you don't understand. They escaped.
Interior bar night. Graysmith and Avery sit. Avery recounts what he's heard.
The guy turns to her and says, I'm going to throw your baby out the window.
Jesus.
She begs him not to. He tells her she's going to die. He's driving around all these back roads, but he gets lost. Stops the car to put in reverse, and she jumps, baby and all. Runs like hell, gets away, goes to the cops. They're about to show her mug shots when she sees a Zodiac composite on the wall, points at it, and screams, that's him.
That's a hell of a story.
You ain't lying.
He slogs back the rest of his drink. Graysmith sips his Shirley Temple and looks back across the bar.
Isn't that Toschi?
It is. He sits alone nursing a Manhattan.
He comes in here sometimes, always alone, always drinks Manhattans.
How do you think he does it?
We move in on Toschi and Graysmith speaks.
For 6 months, you got the whole city scared, and they're all looking to you to catch the guy, to take away the fear. How do you live with that?
Toschi pays for his drink, orders another.
What he needs is a break.
Interior San Francisco Chronicle conference room day. Close on, multiple sheets of paper spread across the conference table, covered with Zodiac's familiar scrawl.
2 letters mailed a day apart got here this morning. He's pissed.
Superimpose April 19th, 1970. The Chronicle staff, Graysmith, Toschi, Armstrong, Avery, and Theiriot, and the army of cops. Armstrong reaches down to extract a bloody piece of cloth from the pile.
Stein's shirt.
More letters, love the whole thing.
The letter mentions Kathleen Johns, the woman who escaped.
Toschi sifts through the other pages to find a greeting card with a skeleton printed on it. Opening it, reading.
This is the Zodiac speaking. I thought you'd need a good laugh before you hear the bad news.
That's encouraging. One of the pages has a diagram on it.
We see a crudely sketched diagram. Armstrong takes it from him, studying it. His eyes go wide.
Dave, it's a bomb.
The room erupts, cops and reporters pushing to get a look.
He says instead of shooting, he's going to attach this to a school bus. Shit. We need to sweep the garages.
Get dogs.
Yeah, dogs for the sweep.
He says he's not going to describe his murders anymore. He's just going to keep doing them in silence.
We see the bottom of the letter. I hope you have fun trying to figure out who I killed. Zodiac 10, San Francisco PD 0.
10? We only have 4 confirmed.
He's saying he's already killed 6 more people.
Silence as people take this in. The asshole editor,
And that would be Robert's cue.
Graysmith, used to it, starts for the door. Toschi looking through more of the pages, finding something.
Hang on.
Graysmith stops. Toschi lifts up a piece of paper filled with code, a new one, remembering what Graysmith said when they first met.
He stays.
Interior coffee shop, afternoon. Graysmith and Toschi sit in a booth, drinking coffee. Graysmith looking over a copy of the new cipher, excited.
This new one's different. He's using a more complex system.
How'd you know he was going to use another code?
Graysmith looks up.
I guessed.
You guessed.
You know Dr. D.C.B. Marsh, head of the American Cryptogram Association?
Toschi stares at him, deadpan.
Not personally, no.
Well, Marsh said with the first code that Zodiac was obviously an expert in ciphers. Why'd he say this? Because FBI, CIA, Naval Intelligence all struck out. Therefore, whoever stumped them had to be a genius with ciphers. Makes sense, right?
Right.
Wrong. Who actually cracked the code?
History teacher.
And his wife, yeah. They're not experts. They're just a married couple from Salinas who like puzzles. So I started thinking, if the people who crack the code are just amateurs, then maybe the guy who wrote the code is too. Take a look at the first one.
Graysmith pulls a rumpled copy of the first cipher from his pocket and spreads it out on the table.
At first glance, it's pretty complex. A 55-character cipher with no breaks in it.
Do you actually carry that around with you?
Yeah, why?
No reason.
So what the Salinas couple did is start looking for patterns. Zodiac's a killer. Therefore, it makes sense that the word kill would come up a bunch of times. Factor in the frequency table.
The what?
With frequency tables, they show the comparative frequencies of letters, groups of letters and syllables. In English, it's like the average amount of times somebody is likely to use the letter E in a sentence. So frequency tables tell us what a double L is, the most common double consonant found in the English language. Will, still, bill, chill, and of course kill, which the Hardens know Zodiac is going to use at least once. So what do?
Start looking for double symbols.
Right, which they find here, here, and here. Like each of these 2 symbols preceding them. So now they've got a repeating 4-letter word ending with 2 identical symbols that they assume stand for L.
And since they believe the whole world is kill,
Like that gives them the symbols for K and I. And they're on their way. See, even though Zodiac used 55 characters for the 26 letters in the alphabet, it's still just a substitution code. Like find we all did as kids. A is 1, B is 2, and so on.
okay, so how does the guy go from A is 1 and B is 2 to this?
The same way I did. He goes to the library.
Graysmith opens his briefcase and pulls out a stack of library books and puts them on the table. Pulls the first one.
The Code Breakers by David Kahn. In the preface, Kahn presents a simple substitution alphabet. 8 of the 26 symbols he suggests were in the first Zodiac cipher. Zodiac must own a copy of this.
What about the other symbols? The religious-looking ones?
I thought they looked religious too. Well, then I remembered hearing about a cipher used during the Middle Ages. I found it in here. Codes and ciphers by John Laffin. Guess what the cipher was called?
I'm all out of guesses.
The Zodiac Alphabet.
A beat. Toschi stares at him, takes the book, looks at the page. The Zodiac Alphabet sits there, many of the symbols identical to the ones in the first code. Toschi floored.
Everything an amateur would need to create the first code is in these books. If you can track the books, maybe you can find the man.
A heavy silence. Toschi studies him.
Why are you doing this?
What do you mean?
Looking for a serial killer is a little above and beyond cartooning.
He's a bad man who needs to be stopped.
A lot of people think that. They're not doing what you are.
Graysmith looks up at him.
I'm not a lot of people.
Interior San Francisco PD homicide unit tonight. Toschi enters like a whirlwind, addressing the detectives.
I need a list of every man, woman, and child who checked out any of these books from the library in San Francisco, Vallejo, or Napa in the last 20 years.
He slaps the list down on the table. One detective scans it.
There must be 20 books here.
Then you should start, shouldn't you? Get the list, cross it with our suspect file.
They're checking every bus before it rolls tomorrow
Armstrong
morning.
enters at a near run.
The letter mentions we won't know if he's already planted it.
What was the phrasing on that again?
He digs a copy of the latest letter out of his pockets.
You actually carry that around with you?
What you do not know is whether the death machine is at the site or whether it's being stored in my basement for further use. We need to get on the phone with the building commission and get architectural plans for every suspect's home.
Dave,
Not many people have basements in California.
I know, and we're on it.
Toschi doesn't respond, lost in thought.
What?
This guy's a jack of all trades, right? Marksman with at least 3 different weapons, knife work, rope tying, codes, and now explosives. Bill, am I crazy or is this starting to sound like the U.S. military?
Exterior San Francisco PD headquarters morning. The sun rising over the building. Interior San Francisco PD homicide unit evening. Toschi sleeps at his desk, jarred awake as the detective drops a huge list onto it.
List of people who checked out the books. Cross-reference with the suspect list. Narrows down to the pull down, but not by much.
Toschi checking the list, index by library. He first turns into the Presidio library list. Almost the entire column of books have the word missing written by them.
Missing?
I mean, the book was stolen. Happens more than you think.
So almost every book on ciphers was stolen from the preeminent West Coast Naval Library?
And the Oakland Army Terminal Library. Weird, huh?
He didn't want to leave a record of checking them out, so he stole them.
Armstrong enters with a broad grin on his face.
You want to talk military? Let's talk military.
He slams a photo of a boot print down on Toschi's desk.
They're called wing walkers, manufactured by Weinbrennan Shoe Company in Meryl, Wisconsin. Over 1 million pairs produced as part of a government contract, and 103,700 pairs were shipped to Air Force and Navy installations on the West Coast. Military issue boots worn by the Zodiac killer at Lake Berryessa.
Toschi stares up at him, furious.
How did we miss this?
More jurisdiction bullshit. I had to call Napa personally to get the photo.
They didn't give it to us originally?
Berryessa is their case.
Our case. Jesus Christ. We could have been onto the military connection months ago.
He clears a stack of papers from his desk, breathing hard, drawing the stares of everyone else in the squad room. Captain Lee pokes his head out of his office.
The biggest case in the history of the state gets fucked because 3 different PDs couldn't cooperate on jurisdiction.
Silence.
Go home, Dave.
Cap.
Home.
Interior Toschi's bedroom morning. Carol, asleep, peaceful. Toschi stands over her.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Carol wakes up, looks at him.
The longer I take to find him, the more people die. The letter says 6 more now, up to 10.
It's not your fault.
Yeah, it is. Some girl could be out there right now getting hacked to pieces by him. We might never know. And that's on me.
He slumps on the bed, looking out the window.
I'm a good cop, Carol. This is what I do, so why can't I fucking do it?
She takes his hand. He smiles through tears.
You said you wanted to talk?
She embraces him, holding him tight, rocking him back and forth, just trying to make it a little better. Interior Graysmith home office morning. The home office has now become a hub of Zodiac information. 5 full bulletin boards covered with photos of the victims, copies of the code, etc. Stacks of books everywhere. Graysmith on the phone with Toschi, intercut.
Maybe he's doing it on purpose. 3 different counties, 3 different police departments. Everyone wants to win. What better way to screw up an investigation than to pit different departments against each other?
Maybe. Married, Robert?
Graysmith frowns at the question.
Divorced, with kids.
Kids need a mother.
Yeah, they mentioned that once or twice.
Toschi looks down the hall, watching his wife folding clothes.
Life goes on, Robert.
Graysmith looks up at the pictures of the Zodiac victims.
Tell that to Darlene Farron.
Exterior Los Angeles City Hall steps morning. A press conference in full swing. A candidate for governor addresses the mass media. Flash bulbs pop, cameras whirl.
I believe some clues were overlooked in the murder of Darlene Farron.
Superimpose October 28th, 1970.
In the last year, the authorities have received no less than 10 pieces of correspondence from the Zodiac killer, and still are no closer to his identity.
Pull back to see on a television in interior Paul Avery's home morning. Avery getting ready for work, sorting through his black back mail by the door, on the phone with Graysmith.
Yeah, they're tearing your friend Toschi a new one, indirectly, of course.
Interior Graysmith's house, on the phone as he tries to wrestle son Brad into a jacket, intercut.
Dave's doing the best he can.
Avery opens one letter. Bill tosses it.
Oh, it's Dave now. Are you two going to be picking out China patterns anytime soon?
Ha ha. She does have a point, though.
Avery opens another letter, greeting card.
Which is?
Darlene, Vallejo, the beginning. Go back to the beginning. Find out why this started.
Avery opens the card and drops the phone. Interior Graysmith's house morning. Graysmith hears the receiver clatter to the ground.
Paul?
Nothing.
Paul?
Click. The line goes dead. Exterior San Francisco brownstone morning. Graysmith's car screeches up to the curb to his kids.
Stay in the car.
Graysmith runs to the door, rings the doorbell. Nothing. Pounding on the door.
Paul! It's me! Paul! Open!
The lock clicks. The door swings open to reveal Paul Avery, sheet white, shit scared.
He wrote me, not the Chronicle, not the cops. He wrote me.
Interior San Francisco PD homicide unit morning. Graysmith, Avery, Toschi, and Armstrong sit around a table, the greeting card between them. A skeleton graces the front. Avery still shaken.
I got my fingerprints on it. I mean, I wouldn't want anyone to find my prints and think I was the guy.
We can disqualify them when we analyze it.
Well, you wrote the bulk of the Zodiac articles. It's only natural for them to try to communicate with you.
Fuck communicate. Read it.
Using tweezers, Toschi examines the card. The front reads, "From your secret pal." Below that is a printed verse. Toschi reads aloud.
I feel it in my bones. You ache to know my name. And so I'll clue you in.
He uses the tweezers to open the card, finishing the rhyme.
But then why spoil our game? Boo. Happy Halloween.
Inside the card, another skeleton, pasted from a different card, and many hand-drawn sketches of eyes peering out. Below that, this message. Peekaboo, you are doomed. 14.
14. Is he saying he's killed 4 more people?
Toschi looks sick at this. Avery lights a cigarette, shaking.
No, he's saying he's killed 3 more and I'm supposed to be next. I want a gun.
Interior San Francisco Chronicle, Graysmith office day. Graysmith sits back in the chair reading aloud from the morning paper to Avery.
Chronicle newsman Paul Avery is living dangerously. His investigative reporting into activities of the Zodiac Killer have won him the accolade of a message from the Zodiac warning. You are doomed. As a result of which, several Chron newsmen are wearing lapel buttons reading, I am not Paul Avery.
Graysmith lowers the paper, revealing he is wearing one of the buttons. Looks over at Avery, who wears one too.
I thought it was a good move.
Are you kidding? Sell him around the building. You can make a mint. Did you really get the gun?
Avery opens his jacket to show Graysmith the shoulder holster.
He's not coming after you, Paul.
You don't know that. And I'm not going to sit around here and wait for him. I'm going to help catch this bastard.
How?
Got about 1 million tip letters since we published the thread on my life. I'm going to run them down one by one. I'm going down to Riverside tonight if you want to tag along. Anonymous tip about an old murder there. Might be related to Zodiac.
I can't.
Why not?
I gotta have a date.
Avery blinks. Clearly, this is news.
Why, Robert Graysmith, there may be hope for you yet.
Exterior Avery's brownstone evening. Kissing his wife goodbye, Avery trots down the steps and gets into the car. Starts the engine and pulls away. It's begun to rain. Exterior San Francisco streets evening. Using a newspaper as a makeshift umbrella, Graysmith hurries through the downpour to a restaurant, late for his date. Interior Toschi's apartment evening. Big band plays on the phonograph. Rain licks the window panes. Toschi sits going through architectural records looking for basements. His face a mask of concentration. Interior Armstrong's house evening. Armstrong plays a game in the living room carpet with his 3 young daughters. Tiddlewinks. They all look up at a crack of thunder. Interior restaurant evening. Graysmith enters soaked, late. Fumbles his way up to the table where his date is on her second glass of wine. Beautiful. Her name is Meryl.
Meryl, I'm Robert. I'm sorry I'm late.
In an attempt to shake her hand, he knocks over a water glass. Grabbing a napkin, he dabs up the spill.
Are you all right?
It's just been a day talking to the police, trying to crack a code.
You're a detective.
Cartoonist.
Exterior Interstate 5 night. Night has fallen. Avery pilots his car south through the deluge, headed for Riverside. Interior restaurant tonight. Graysmith and Meryl sit having hors d'oeuvres. Meryl a little weirded out, but still enjoying the date.
It's funny. Most men don't mention their obsession with serial killers until dessert.
I like to get it up front and see how it plays.
Meryl laughs.
So your friend who got the anonymous letter, is he's tracking a clue?
Yeah, about an old murder in Riverside. He's going down there to meet with the writer tonight. Anonymous letter.
That's what you said.
What if it's a trap?
Exterior Interstate 5 night. Avery takes the Riverside exit of the freeway, checking the address he's written on a piece of paper. Exterior San Francisco street payphone night. Graysmith and Meryl huddled half in and half out of the phone booth, being soaked by the rain as Graysmith feeds coins into the phone, shouting over the storm.
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure my friend isn't hacked to pieces.
Understandable.
Graysmith dials.
This must be the worst date ever.
You'd be surprised.
Exterior Riverside night. Avery pulls up to a small house on the tree-lined street. All the lights are off. He double checks the address. This is it. He shuts off the engine and gets out of the car. Interior Toschi's home night. Toschi on the phone with Graysmith.
Where in Riverside?
I don't know.
I'm calling the chief of police.
He hangs up and dials. Exterior Riverside house night. Avery reaches for the front door, rings the bell. Nothing. Goes to knock and realizes the door is ajar. A beat. He pushes on it. It creaks open.
Hello?
No response.
I got your letter.
Still nothing. The moment of truth. Avery steps inside.
I'm Paul Avery.
That's not what your button says.
Avery spins to see a figure behind him. Smash cut to interior Graysmith's home dawn. Graysmith sits in his chair, phone by his side, face haggard. He's been up all night waiting for the call. Across from him, Meryl is curled up on the couch, still in her dress. Been there the whole time. She blinks awake.
Still no word.
No, it's 6. You don't have to stay.
Are you kidding? This is the most exciting date I've ever had.
The phone rings. Graysmith snatches it up.
Paul?
Intercut.
But he's fine.
Graysmith exhales, relieved, nods to Meryl.
So he's up in Sacramento with Sherwood Morrill giving handwriting confirmation.
Handwriting confirmation on what?
Interior Riverside Police Department lecture hall day. A meeting of the police, all the cops from Riverside, Napa, Vallejo, and San Francisco who are working on various murders. Toschi stands at the podium.
On an anonymous tip, reporter Paul Avery traveled to Riverside. There he was given information by a man regarding the only unsolved homicide in Riverside's history.
A slide is projected behind him of a pretty young girl.
Sherry Jo Bates attended Riverside Community College and was murdered October 30th, 1966, over 2 years before the first recorded Zodiac killing. She was studying at the community college library the night of her death. She left with an unidentified male at closing at 9 p.m. Her body was found the next morning in the library parking lot by the grounds crew. She sustained multiple stab wounds, including but not limited to 3 across the jugular. A neighbor reported hearing an awful scream at 10:30 p.m. Sherwood?
Sherwood Morrill, the handwriting expert, takes the podium.
Soon after, a typewritten letter was received by Riverside PD from a man calling himself Enterprise. In it, he described the murder in detail, referred to it as a game, and demanded that the letter be published. All patterns that emerged in the later Zodiac letters. No prints or fibers were found on the letter. However, the killer wrote again nearly 6 months to the day of Miss Bates' death. Slide.
A new slide, a photo of a hand-scrawled note which reads, Bates had to die. There will be more, too. This single squiggle adorns the bottom of the note.
When police first examined the note, they believed that the symbol on the bottom to be the number 2, denoting that this was a second letter from the killer. We now believe that squiggle to not be a 2, but a Z.
A beat as the others take this in.
Even more interesting is a poem that was found carved to the desk inside the Riverside Library. Slide.
A new slide of the poem carved into the wood. Sick of living, unwilling to die, out, clean, if red, clean, blood splurting, dripping, spilling, all over her new dress. Oh well, it was red anyway. Life draining into an uncertain death. She won't die this time. Someone 11, find her, just wait till next time. RH.
The handwriting on the desk matches the Bates had to die letter. They both match the confirmed Zodiac letters received in the last year. We believe that Sherry Jo Bates was the first official Zodiac victim. Questions?
A flurry of hands shoot up. Toschi points to one.
The library closed at 9 o'clock, but the scream wasn't heard till 10:30.
That's right.
So either she came back to the closed library and encountered the killer.
Interior restaurant night. Graysmith and Meryl, date 3.
Or she knew him.
She knew him?
What would she be doing talking to a complete stranger in the parking lot for that long? Sherry Jo Bates knew the Zodiac killer personally.
Interior San Francisco PD homicide unit morning. Armstrong hangs up the phone, turning to Toschi, who just walked in carrying a book under his arm.
Boot print found near Sherry Jo's body was military issue. It doesn't match the one at Lake Berryessa, but it reinforces the military theory.
You want to talk Lake Berryessa? The victim there, Cecelia Shepard. Guess where she went to college?
No.
Yeah, Riverside. Sherry Jo knew Zodiac, but Cecelia knew Sherry Jo.
Exterior Graysmith's house evening. Graysmith locking his door and walking Meryl towards his car at the beginning of date 7.
Why doesn't Zodiac brag about it?
How do you mean?
In his letters, he talks about all his victims, but he never mentions anyone in Riverside.
He opens the car door for her, getting in.
I'm sure the police can handle it.
Graysmith gives a strange look, but lets it go.
I talked to Dave the other day. You wouldn't believe how many people are coming forward with theories since the Riverside story broke.
Interior San Francisco PD headquarters interview room afternoon. An exhausted Toschi sits across from Ron and Sheila Starr, the latest in a countless string of interviews.
My brother Bob is the Zodiac killer.
And what makes you think this, Mr. Starr?
He's very secretive. He's always working on things, codes, like the squiggles Zodiac sent to papers.
Has he ever told you he's the Zodiac? Confessed?
Ron and Sheila exchange a glance.
No.
Toschi closing the case file, unconvinced.
We'll look into him.
Inspector, we drove all the way down here.
And I appreciate it. But you have to understand, we get hundreds of tips like this every day.
Of people turning in a family member?
You're the fourth this week.
Ron doesn't know what to say. Toschi shows them the door, giving them the standard line.
If there's enough evidence for a warrant, we'll take handwriting and fingerprint samples and check them against our exemplars. Thanks for coming down.
Interior San Francisco PD homicide unit day. Toschi enters and tosses the file back into a huge stack.
Anything?
Up, yes. Another creepy brother.
Got another stack of Riverside students if you want to go through them.
Let's do it over lunch. Hey, Amber, call Vallejo. Have someone follow up with the stars.
Armstrong turns in his chair.
Did you say Star?
Yeah.
What's his full name?
Toschi retrieves the file, paging through it.
Robert Hall Starr.
Armstrong's out of his chair, over the file cabinet, feverishly searching for a file, finds it, opens it.
A couple of months ago, I talked to a hunter named Ryan Cheney in Pomona. He said the same thing. A guy named Starr from Vallejo is the one. Starr had talked to him about the idea of hunting people for sport. And this is in '68, before the name Zodiac ever came up. So Cheney's asking how he'd get away with it. Starr said he'd be easy. He'd write the police letters. And he'd sign them Zodiac.
Cheney told you this?
Yeah, and my bullshit detector went off the charts. Cheney obviously had a grudge against this guy, and I figured he was just doing this to fuck with him. Plus, this Starr guy had no connection to Riverside, so I didn't.
They both stare at each other. Riverside. A beat, and then Toschi bolts for the door. Exterior San Francisco PD headquarters afternoon. Ron and Sheila Starr crossing the street in the rain.
Starr! Wait!
They run to turn to see Toschi sprinting out of the building, running towards them, arriving out of breath.
Mr. Starr, did your brother ever live in Riverside?
He was a student there in 1965. Why?
Interior Captain Lee's office day. Lee looks up at Toschi, steps in.
We have a name.
Interior San Francisco PD homicide unit night. The name Starr emblazoned on the far wall. Below are photographs, employee records, school transcripts, timelines, and personal history. All the detectives working round the clock on this one guy. Working the phones, we hear the name Starr said in numerous conversations. Interior Graysmith bedroom night. Graysmith and Meryl in bed kissing. The phone rings.
Don't answer it. You're answering it.
Hello? Okay, half an hour.
He hangs up, rises from the bed. Meryl, not happy.
Oh, no, mister. You are not leaving me on our first sleepover.
Dave thinks they know who it is.
You're seriously weighing sex with me versus talking about a serial killer?
They were gonna have sex.
Going to, yes.
That complicates things.
Well, I should hope.
I'll make it up to you. I'll take you out for a big steak. I mean, if you like steak or chicken, chicken's good.
She stares at him.
They get this guy and you'll be done, right?
I promise.
Meryl sighs, frustrated.
Go.
Okay, going. Thank you. Sorry.
He goes, shutting the bedroom door. Meryl sighs. The door opens again. He sticks his head in.
Oh, by the way, I think I'm falling in love with you.
Before she can respond, he ducks back into the hall, closing the door, leaving Meryl with a big smile on her face. Interior bar night. Toschi sits with Graysmith, who pages through the info on their suspect, about to run down a checklist.
All right, let's play our game. Physical description.
Photos of Star matches our composite sketch of Zodiac.
Military boot prints.
Star was a Navy man, dishonorably discharged.
Zodiac's marksmanship.
Star received very high shooting marks in the service, and was also an avid hunter.
And what about the ciphers?
Code training in the Navy. Plus, his brother has seen him with ciphers in the past.
Graysmith stares at him. Toschi smiles.
Would you like to try for double jeopardy, where the scores can really add up?
Connection to the Vallejo murders.
Star lives in Vallejo with his mother in her basement.
And then connection to the Napa murder.
On the day of the Berryessa murder, Star's sister-in-law saw a bloody knife in his truck, which she claimed was used to kill chickens.
And then connection to the Riverside murder.
Star was a student in Riverside in 1965.
And then connection to the bus bomb threat.
Star works as a janitor at an elementary school, which would give him knowledge of specific bus routes. I mean, he was fired for molestation charges, which gave him motive for the threat.
But the bomb diagram itself?
It could have been taken from a book, or Star's Navy training on explosives. Now ask the big question.
Graysmith leans forward.
The name Zodiac.
Star mentioned it a year and a half before it appeared in the letter.
Silence. Graysmith stares at him.
Now what we need is the evidence.
Interior Captain Lee's office night. Toschi and Armstrong pace nervously as Captain Lee looks over the information they've compiled.
At least 3 residences. Where do you want to search?
The trailer in Santa Rosa. If you took any trophies, that's where they'd be.
This is it, Cap.
How many suspects we got right now? I mean, hard suspects that we're looking into.
Toschi and Armstrong exchange a look.
Over 1,000.
So why this guy?
It all fits.
No, it doesn't. No connection to the cabbie, no personal motive in any of the killings, no eyewitnesses. What you've got is a creepy guy with some tenuous geographical connections to the murder sites and hearsay of an estranged brother and a pissed off buddy, all of whom waited years to come forward with details that conveniently match everything that's been printed in the newspapers.
Toschi and Armstrong shocked into silence, Lee softening.
Look, I want this to be the guy. But what if it's not? You two get tunnel vision on one suspect, you're fucked.
Oh, bullshit.
Not bullshit, Bill. You start to hope. In our business, hope will destroy you. Pin all your theories on one guy and he turns out to be innocent? I've seen cops lose it, and the case never gets solved.
Why not?
Because to them, there's no hope of solving it.
Exterior Stars trailer park day. Toschi and Armstrong pull their car to a halt, getting out. This is it. The partners walk in silence. Superimposed June 4th, 1971.
I yelled at my wife last night for no reason. I was on the phone. She wanted something. I snapped at her. No biggie, but I can't remember the last time I yelled at my wife.
They reach for the door of the trailer.
You gonna be okay?
He's the guy.
Toschi nods. Armstrong turns and knocks on the door. Interior Graysmith's home office night. Graysmith on the phone with Toschi, intercut.
Trailer was weird, Robert. Like frozen squirrels in the freezer, dildos and Vaseline under the bed. You know what he said when we found those? I just like to mess around.
Did you find anything else?
Nothing named in the warrant, but we took prints and handwriting. Made him rewrite some of the letters. He hated it. Argued for 20 minutes before he'd do it. But Sherwood's checking on it right now. Robert, he was wearing this watch the whole time. He said his mother gave it to him for Christmas in '68. It was a fucking Zodiac watch. I think we got him.
Interior Captain Lee's office morning. Captain Lee leads Toschi and Armstrong in, motions them to take a seat. They do, looking up expectantly.
Star's fingerprints came back negative. No match to the cab.
Doesn't necessarily mean anything. We always thought the print was suspect.
Lee holds up his hand, silencing him.
Sherwood just called. Spent 24 hours analyzing Stress handwriting against Zodiac letters. It's not him.
A beat as this sinks in.
I'm putting you two back in rotation. You'll still run Zodiac, but I want you working regular murders too.
Toschi stands and leaves, slamming the door as he goes. Lee rises and goes after him, leaving Armstrong sitting there on the couch, equally devastated that they were wrong. Interior San Francisco PD Homicide Unit morning. Toschi angrily ripping down the name Star and the photographs on the wall. Torn photos litter the floor.
Feel better?
Out of breath, Toschi turns to see his captain.
So you keep going.
You think it's that easy?
It has to be either that or quit.
Fuck you, Marty.
You want to let him go free? Let him keep killing?
You know I don't.
Then you keep going.
Silence. Toschi just stares at the ruined wall softly.
You know what the bitch of it is? I can't tell if I wanted it to be Star so bad because I really thought it was him. Or because I just wanted all this to be over.
Because you thought it was him. I did too.
He goes over to the wall, and together he and Toschi begin to place the ripped photos into the trash. Interior Graysmith's bedroom night, late. Graysmith on the phone. Meryl watches.
Right. Thanks.
He hangs up, turns to her.
It wasn't him.
She doesn't know what to say. He rises, pulling on his robe.
Where are you going?
Back to work.
Interior Graysmith's home office night. Graysmith sits in his robe, shifting through his files. We pull back and away from him as night stretches on. Interior San Francisco PD Homicide Unit morning. A copy of the Chronicle in Armstrong's desk. Latest Zodiac letter claims 37 victims. Armstrong stares at it, his eyes caught on the 37.
We got a call. Car jumped a curb, took out a girl on Van Ness.
Armstrong looks up to see Toschi pulling on his coat. Mechanically, he goes to get his own. Exterior Van Ness Boulevard morning. A small crowd is gathered around the taped off police scene. A body sprawled on the pavement. Toschi and Armstrong approach.
Victim at the scene.
Scene.
Toschi nods and goes to the victim, pulls out his notebook and tape measure, goes through the ritual, sketching, taking measurements. Armstrong stares at the body. A girl, young, pretty, her brains on the sidewalk. A soft breeze blows. Armstrong closes his eyes, feels it on his face. He opens them again, looks down the street. A small Japanese restaurant on the corner. Armstrong smiles, leaves the scene, walking towards it. Interior Japanese restaurant morning. The bell of the door jingles as Toschi enters, seeing Armstrong sitting at the table, being given miso soup by the waiter.
What are you doing?
Armstrong looks up.
Trying Japanese food.
He takes a sip of the soup and smiles. It's good.
We got a body out there.
Armstrong doesn't respond, takes some more soup. Toschi walks over to him.
You feeling okay?
Gonna put in my transfer request this afternoon. I was thinking of Bunko.
What are you talking about?
I don't sleep. Do you?
Toschi takes this in, sits. Armstrong sips more soup.
3 years on Zodiac. And what do we have? Nothing.
We have leads. We have a profile.
And thousands of names that fit it. Zodiac's a mirage, Dave. Every time we think we get close, he evaporates.
He's out there. He's real.
I know. But I can't live like this anymore.
Live like what?
Live like I'm gonna start living again once this is over.
We'll get him.
But what if we don't? Are you gonna be able to live with that? No.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. I will find this man. All or nothing. Remember? Those are the stakes of the game. That's what we've invested. We don't take this guy down, and for the rest of our lives, the failure.
Toschi looks down, knowing he's right.
I got a wife, and 3 daughters. I can't look at them without seeing blood. I'm never standing over a dead body again.
Toschi doesn't know how to respond. Finally,
I can't do this without you.
Armstrong looks at his friend kindly.
I'm not saying the game's winnable. I just can't play anymore.
The waiter arrives with a platter of food. Armstrong smiles.
I ordered some non-raw stuff.
We pull back from the two partners sharing a last lunch together, the end of an era. Exterior movie theater night. Graysmith and Toschi wait in line for a movie.
Everything's a dead end. Star, Riverside, the military. As soon as we get someone we like, something disqualifies them. And now, Bill gone.
I asked Meryl to marry me.
Toschi blindsided. He blinks.
The kids love her.
Do you love her?
More than anything. No cigars yet. She said she'd think it over. And in the meantime, I gotta relax. You gotta relax. Tonight's about relaxing.
Interior movie theater night. Graysmith and Toschi sit in the dark while Dirty Harry unspools on the screen in front of them.
He calls himself the Scorpio Killer. From what we understand, he's planning on targeting a school bus full of children.
That's not gonna happen.
The audience around Graysmith and Toschi bursts into a pause. On screen, the final scene. Clint has cornered the Scorpio Killer, holding his Magnum 44 on him.
Maybe I fired 5 bullets, maybe I fired 6. In all the confusion, I lost count. So the only question is, do you feel lucky? Do you? Punk?
Oh, we feel lucky. A beat. Apparently, the Scorpio Killer feels lucky and goes for his gun. Clint blows his head off. People cheer at again. Graysmith and Toschi exchange a look and then burst out hysterically laughing at the absurdity of it all. They get some looks, but they only make them laugh harder. They cannot stop. Doubled over, tears run down their faces, a release of all the built-up tension. Interior Graysmith's home office later. Graysmith feverishly working on the 1969 code. Meryl comes to the door with her bathrobe, watching him.
When did you get in?
A couple hours ago.
Was the movie good?
That's fine. I should have gotten this coat by now.
When are you going to be done with this?
Graysmith looks up at her.
What?
What's it going to take for you to be finished with Zodiac?
On Graysmith, surprised.
It was okay when we're dating, but we're talking about a lot more than dating now, aren't we?
He considers slowly.
I want to know who it is. I want to stand there and look him in the eye and know it's him.
I can't wait for that to happen.
He stares at her.
I want a life with you. And I will marry you, but not if I have to compete with a phantom. You have to choose, Robert. Him or me.
Interior Graysmith's bedroom later. Meryl slumbers soundly. Graysmith watches her from the door, considering it, turns and walks back downstairs. Interior Graysmith living room night. He reaches the bottom of the stairs, looks to the open door of his Zodiac office. Papers, charts, codes everywhere. His life for years. He walks towards it, reaches the threshold, and then closes the door, locking it with a key. Turning his back on the Zodiac, he climbs the stairs, ascending back to the bedroom and his wife-to-be. And we begin our time-passing montage, a series of dissolving images as the years roll by. Dissolve to a wedding, Graysmith and Meryl, the kids as dual ring bearers. Dissolve to the tip line, staffed by 40 people. Dissolve to Graysmith's home office, still locked. The unsolved 1969 code beginning to crease at the edges with age. Dissolve to the tip line, only 20 people now. Dissolve to Toschi sitting in his easy chair, big band on the phonograph, a little gray coming into his temples. Dissolve to a hospital, Meryl giving birth to Graysmith's third child, Margot. Dissolve to Graysmith's home office, dust cakes the desk. The papers and photos all creased, forgotten. We hear the Graysmith family throughout the through the locked door playing in the other room. Dissolved to the tip line. Now only the college kid is left, years older, staring down at the switchboard that is no longer lights up. Interior San Francisco Chronicle, Avery's office night. Boxes on the desk, the place cleaned out. Avery pulls a bottle of scotch from the last drawer and puts it on top of the last box. Finished. Looks around the place, his home for so many years, sighs, picks up the box, and walks out, shutting the light. Interior San Francisco Chronicle, hallways night. Avery carries the boxes to the elevator.
All done?
Avery turns to see his friend.
Came down to see you off. Sacramento, it'll be good for you.
Yeah. I just couldn't do it anymore. All that Zodiac craziness. At least you got out. Got yourself a life, a wife, and another rugrat.
Graysmith smiles. The elevator dings open and Avery steps in, giving Graysmith a smile back and some parting words.
Don't fuck it up.
The doors close between them, dissolve to exterior San Francisco morning, soaring over the skyline again, establishing a new era. Superimpose April 24th, 1978.
Tonight, we examine a cold case, possibly the most famous in history, the Zodiac Killer. 4 years have passed since we last heard from him.
Television newscast file footage of a previous Zodiac letters.
Shortly after a connection was established between an unsolved 1966 murder in Riverside and the Cipher Slayer, Zodiac letters became more infrequent and finally nil. Many people believe he is dead, but Inspector Dave Toschi has a different idea.
File footage of Toschi.
Toschi, currently making headlines as the next possible chief of police, is the only San Francisco detective still working a case that at one time commanded the attention of hundreds of policemen and women. Now it's down to just one man, and the killer, still at large, who haunts him.
Interior Graysmith's home evening. Considerably more feminine now that Meryl's moved in. Graysmith, Meryl, and the kids set the table for dinner. Cal, a teenager, Brad getting close to it.
You're telling me you never got a C- in your entire life.
This is math, Cal. You want to go through life not being able to add?
Yeah, Dad, I kind of nailed down the whole adding thing in second grade. My C was on a test about cotangent equations.
A beat. Graysmith looks over at his wife.
What in the hell are no cotangent equations?
Meryl laughs. The kids do too. One big happy family.
You see Dave on the news the other day? They really did a hatchet job.
Haunted.
Hey, am I haunted?
I don't know. Maybe a little touched.
Graysmith gets a sly grin.
I'll show you touched.
He moves around the table, trying to kiss her. She shrieks with laughter, trying to fend him off. Cal stands there, disgusted at the sight of the true love. Exterior Jack in the Box restaurant day. Hey, they had Jack in the Box back then. Toschi stands with his new young partner, talking to a group of bikers. Hair a little grayer, but the same bow tie and notebook, flipped open, taking notes.
And which one of you witnessed the shooting? Please, one at a time.
22 call-in immediately, landline only.
Interior, San Francisco PD Homicide Unit Day. Toschi's secretary picks up. Next to her, excited reporter Duffy Jennings bounces on the balls of his feet. Intercut.
It's me. What's up?
I've got Jennings from the Cron.
Jennings snatches the phone out of her hand, manic.
Parker spotted it this morning and brought it to me since I took over for Paul Avery. You gotta come in now and see it.
See what?
A new Zodiac letter. It mentions you.
Toschi reels, looking like he's been slapped in the face.
You got it with you?
Yeah.
Don't move.
He hangs up, turns to his partner.
We're going to run some red lights.
Exterior streets day. Toschi's car screams through intersections, sirens blaring, running every red light in sight, tearing to headquarters. Interior San Francisco PD Homicide Unit Day. Toschi enters at a sprint, scanning the room for...
Here.
Toschi goes to him, the letter on the desk. He scans down it. As he reads, he pulls a pack of cigarettes off the desk, takes one and lights it, drags deeply, reading.
Dave?
Yeah.
You quit smoking 3 years ago.
Right.
He stubs the smoke out, now taking his eyes off the letter. Interior U.S. Postal Crime Lab Day. Superimposed U.S. Postal Service Crime Lab, San Bruno. John Shimoda, handwriting expert, on the phone with Toschi.
Got a possible Zodiac letter. How much longer is it going to be there?
Only till 4:30.
Give me 20 minutes.
Dave, you can't get to San Bruno in 20.
But Toschi's already hung up. Wow. Exterior streets day. Toschi screams through another red light, sirens wailing. Interior U.S. Postal Crime Lab Day. Shimoda places the letter beneath a neon light with tweezers, comparing it with the previous Zodiac letters. Behind him, Toschi paces nervously. Shimoda finally looks up, takes a breath.
I'd say it's genuine.
You sure?
It's sure enough his writing.
And we push in on the letter under the light, which reads, "Dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking. I am back with you. Tell Herb I'm here. I've always been here. That city pig Toschi is good, but I am smarter and better. He will get tired, then leave me alone. I'm waiting for a good movie about me. Who will play me? I am now in control of all things. Yours truly, Zodiac, guess. San Francisco PD, 0. Toschi's eyes flitting over the city pig Toschi line. Interior Graysmith home night. Graysmith watching TV.
The first new letter from the Zodiac killer in 51 months.
Click. Graysmith looks up to see Meryl has shut off the TV.
It's time for dinner. Okay, fine.
Click, the TV back on.
But tonight, controversy, as Channel 6 learns that not only might the new letter be a forgery, but it may have been written by the very man charged to hunt the killer, Inspector Dave Toschi.
Interior Toschi's apartment night. A hard rain falls. The doorbell rings. Carol emerges from the kitchen to answer it. Graysmith. She smiles kindly, motioning for him to enter.
David, look who's here.
Toschi looks up from its easy chair. 3-day stubble, a half-drunk Manhattan on the side table. Graysmith approaches awkward, carrying a bunch of records under his arm.
I brought you some records, big band stuff.
Toschi motions for him to sit, then slumps. A man defeated. Graysmith takes a seat, not wanting to speak first. Finally.
A couple years ago, there was this fictional column, Tales of the City. The author used me as a character in one. Tough cop named Toschi figures out his boss is a bad guy. I got a kick out of it. Wrote him a couple letters, signed a different name. Kind of like writing fan mail for myself.
He chuckles, takes a pull in his drink.
Guy who wrote the column says the letters I didn't sign in the new Zodiac letter are similar in tone. Because I was mentioned. Because he wanted press. Because
he trails off.
Nobody thinks you forged that letter.
That's not what the news says.
Nobody that matters.
Fuck matters, Robert. It's over. 25 years as a cop, and they're transferring me. Pawn shop detail.
Jesus.
They'll never let me be murder police after this. Never let me near something that matters. Never again. Look, Zodiac wrote that letter. He's still out there because we weren't good enough. I wasn't good enough. And I'm never going to get another shot.
Graysmith, speechless. Toschi takes another drink, grimaces.
All or nothing. Bill knew. Got out while he could still live with it. Now, they're never going to catch him now.
Interior Graysmith home, bedroom night, late, thunder outside, rain still falls. Graysmith lies next to a slumbering Meryl, unable to sleep. Finally, he gets up, sits on the edge of the bed, thinking. Armstrong, Avery, and now Toschi, all gone, all victims. Graysmith rises, this decision made, pulls on a robe. Interior Graysmith home office night. Tumblers fall into place, the door unlocking. They open with a creak. Graysmith stands over his desk filled with old Zodiac material, a thin layer of dust coating it, untouched for years. He sits, blowing the dust away, picking up the file nearest to him and begins shifting through it. And we watch as Robert Graysmith comes back into the case. Interior San Francisco Chronicle Day. Theiriot pokes his head out into the hallway.
Graysmith!
Interior Theiriot's office day. Graysmith stands before the publisher.
You want to tell me why a rival newspaper is reporting that you're investigating the Zodiac?
It's on my time, Charles.
From down the hall.
Graysmith, there's a Sherwood Morrow for you on the line, too.
Theiriot raises his eyebrow. Who?
Kind of the Zodiac handwriting expert.
On your own time?
Graysmith backs out of the office.
I really should take this.
Interior San Francisco Chronicle Graysmith's office day. Graysmith runs in and picks up the phone. Intercut.
Mr. Morrill, thanks for calling me back so quick.
Dave Toschi speaks very highly of you. Goddamn shame what they did to him. I told SFPD I'd never work on the Zodiac for them again.
I completely understand. How about doing some for me?
Interior Graysmith home night. Graysmith plays with Margot on the floor. Meryl walks by.
I'm going to Sacramento tomorrow to meet Sherwood Morrill.
Meryl stops, staring at him.
What are you doing, Robert?
A tense silence. Before he can answer, the phone rings. Graysmith rises and picks it up.
Hello?
Mr. Graysmith? The Robert Graysmith mentioned in the paper today?
Yes?
I can tell you who the Zodiac is.
A beat.
Who is this?
The Zodiac Killer is so full of movies. He has records of his activities on open film. I have a friend who's a ham radio operator, and he used to talk to the killer at night. I tried to tell the police, but they didn't follow through on it. Are you ready for the important part, Mr. Graysmith?
Yes?
The man? I'm sorry. There is a man you need to find. His name is Marvin Bernell. B-E-R?
Graysmith scrambles for a pen, writing it on his hand.
N-E-L-L. Bernell. He is not the Zodiac, but he is a friend. He doesn't know his friend is the killer. He is storing some old film canisters for his friend, and these canisters is all the evidence you'll need.
Graysmith's face white. Meryl looks at him strangely.
What's his name?
You have quite enough already to get started.
Please!
Silence.
The Zodiac's name is Don Andrews.
Click. The man hangs up. Exterior Interstate Day. Graysmith driving up to Sacramento.
Handwriting is everything.
Exterior Morrill's house backyard day. Graysmith walks with Morrill through his small garden. Every so often, the handwriting expert stops to check a flower.
Most people don't get that. They get fixated on the other evidence. Fingerprints, shell casings. Can a shell casing tell you the mental state of your suspect? Can a fingerprint give you the key to motive?
He stops by a rose bush. Checking for bugs.
Zodiac used a mix of cursive and printing. Most of us do. We choose at some point in our lives how we will physically construct each letter. Take a capital Y. Some of us use one continuous stroke, starting at the top left, veering down and coming up to complete the right side without lifting our pen from the page. Others execute the Y in two moves, a hard stroke down for the bottom, lift the pen, and then the small V at the top for completion. Once we lock this into our brains, our handwriting may change over the years, but the moves themselves we will use invariably remain unaltered. Do you understand?
Yes.
Except Zodiac's doesn't, specifically with his K. In his first letters, Ks were executed with 2 strokes. In later letters, he did them with 3.
Why?
We don't know.
They move onto some lilacs.
Now we come to content. As a sexual sadist, Zodiac takes great pleasure in not only the act itself, but reliving the act. Most likely he masturbated while he wrote the letters. His rambling style and frequent misspellings would support this. Except I do not believe for 1 minute that a man this smart cannot spell. Further, his printing is unnervingly consistent, always tidy, small lettering, even with slight variations such as the K. He is, if nothing else, precise. Note the mistake in the 1969 cipher.
Mistake?
You've seen it. You just didn't realize it.
Graysmith pulls a copy of the code from his back pocket. Off Meryl, Morel's look defensive.
Yes, I carried around with me.
Here, on the 6th line, he scratched out 1 symbol and lettered in another above it.
Graysmith looks. It's true.
Whole obvious words are misspelled in the letters.
But he corrects the misspelling in the code, so the content is crazed and the misspelling's calculated, while the execution is precise?
Always. Which does not make any sense whatsoever. Oh, I gotta spray these.
Graysmith follows Morel to his garage to get the sprayer.
How many suspects were cleared through handwriting?
All of them. Also, the palm print in Stein's cab, no match was ever found.
Is there any way someone could beat our handwriting test?
It's extremely unlikely.
But there is a way.
I'm sorry. Whoever the Zodiac is, he's not someone we clear.
Morel walks back to the lilacs. Graysmith follows.
There is one thing that might help. About a month ago, a man named Wallace Penny showed up at my doorstep, very distraught. He said he knew Toschi hadn't written the latest letter, and he knew who did. He gave me a name. I wrote it down inside. Don something?
Graysmith stops in his tracks.
Andrews.
What?
Don Andrews. The same man who talked to you called me.
That was it. The reason I remember is after the man left, I went back through my files to check the name.
And?
I never cleared a Don Andrews for handwriting.
Interior coffee shop evening. Graysmith sits across from a weathered Toschi.
Palm print in the cab didn't match. Andrews was cleared.
No handwriting?
There was a huge handwritten sign on the window of his house. Looked nothing like the letters.
What if he didn't write the sign?
Robert.
Andrews was in the Navy, Dave. It's confirmed he received code training.
Toschi takes this in.
A month before the first Zodiac letter, Andrews made friends with a man named Marvin Bernell. He worked as a projectionist at Bernell's silent film theater and collected silent films himself. How much do you want to bet one of those is the most dangerous game?
It's thin.
Well, then try this. Penny says Bernell is storing a film canister for Andrews, and he believes that Andrews not only took trophies like Stent's shirt, but also filmed the crimes. Remember the first letter? The mention of Darlene's patterned slacks and how we could never figure it out.
You think Zodiac has a visual record of the murders?
Andrews, he watches the film after, sees the slacks, puts it in the letter to prove it was him.
It's possible.
Well, so follow the pattern. He makes sure to note something about Darlene. Why? Because in the beginning for Zodiac, it was all about Darlene. First letter he wrote us, it was after he killed her. Not Cherry Joe, not Betty Lou, not David Faraday, but Darlene Ferrin. See, at first I thought Zodiac never mentioned Riverside because he didn't want us to know about it. But I was missing the point.
Meaning?
If Zodiac was killing people as far back as 1966, why did he wait till 69 to write us? What was it about Darlene that made her so special? How was she different from the other victims?
Silence. Toschi puts down his coffee.
She was being followed.
What?
A weirdo who came to a dinner a lot and a painting party at Darlene's house. Darlene's sister Pam identified the guy as Andy Walker. He was cleared on handwriting.
But Andrews wasn't.
The man at the painting party wasn't Andrews.
You're sure? You talked to Pam yourself?
No, but...
Well, call her, or the other sister, Linda.
Nobody can find Linda, and I'm not calling Pam.
Well, why not? If we can establish a connection between Andrews and Darlene, we can...
We can what? I'm off the case, and you were never on it. You got a suspect off of a phone call. No ties to the victim, no physical evidence, and most importantly, no handwriting samples. And you can't get a sample without a warrant, which you can't get either because you're not a cop.
Graysmith stares at him, a little hurt.
I'll get the handwriting. I'll find Linda.
How?
Graysmith doesn't respond. Toschi sighs.
Paul once told me he never saw you start anything you didn't finish. Remember what happened to Paul?
What does that have to do with...
He became a drunk, lost his family, and moved to Sacramento. Because of this.
What's your point?
You have a choice here, Robert. Bill and Paul and I didn't. But you do. So I'm asking, are you sure you want to do this?
Interior Graysmith's office day. Sketchpads cast aside. Graysmith on the phone with Wallace Penny, the voice from the earlier anonymous call.
I can get you Andrew's handwriting.
You can?
Don used to do hand-lettered movie posters for Bernell's theater. I'll send one down.
Interior Graysmith home night. Graysmith now on the phone with his home office.
Yes, I'm trying to get in touch with Linda.
He listens as the person on the other end of the line speaks. Meryl walks in. Graysmith holds up his hand. Hold on.
Do you have a forwarding address?
He copies it down as Meryl stews, then hangs up.
Dinner's been on the table for 10 minutes.
We'll start without me.
We did.
She's pissed. But Graysmith doesn't even notice. He's looking past her at something in the hallway.
Did that package come today?
Before she can answer, he's on his feet, goes and gets in the package, rips it open. It's a hand-drawn movie poster.
I've got to go to Sacramento.
Now?
But he's already halfway out the door without a kiss.
Don't wait up.
Interior Morrill home. Morrill in his bathrobe stands over a table, magnifying glass in hand, examining the movie poster. Behind him, Graysmith waits, holding his breath. Finally,
Need more samples.
Graysmith tortured.
But is it?
Close. Yes, about as close as I've ever seen. And that's why I need more. We have to tread very lightly here, Mr. Graysmith. We are talking about putting this man away as the Zodiac killer.
I'll get more. I'll find Bernell.
He starts for the door.
Mr. Graysmith,
Graysmith turns.
most of the writing matches the exemplar. In a way, though, it's the part that doesn't match that scares me the most.
How do you mean?
The only letter on this poster that absolutely, positively does not match is the letter K.
Exterior Graysmith home night. 2 a.m. Graysmith pulls in, returning from Sacramento. Interior Graysmith's bedroom night. Graysmith climbs into bed, Meryl asleep. Just as he closes his eyes, the phone rings. Graysmith picks it up.
Hello?
No response.
Hello? Is anyone...
He trails off listening. Someone is on the other end, just breathing.
It's you, isn't it?
Click. The line goes dead. Graysmith slowly hangs up the phone, turns to see Meryl awake, staring at him, scared. Interior Graysmith home office night. Later, Graysmith sits at his desk, kicked out, trying to get comfortable, catch some sleep, but he can't. The faces of the victims in the bulletin board stare back at him. Below each face is written the date of their attack. Sherry Jo Bates, October 30th. Betty Jensen, September 20th. Darlene Farron, July 5th. Cecelia Shepard, September 27th. Paul Stein, October 11th. Kathleen Johns, March 22nd. Graysmith shifts in the chair, staring back at the pictures. His eyes drift over the wall calendar. It's December. Written below one of the dates in cheap calendar printing are the words winter solstice. Graysmith sits up, something eating at him. He pulls the calendar down off the wall, flips back to September, finds more words, autumn, equinox. Graysmith tears a piece of paper off his pad and feverishly begins to sketch. Interior coffee shop day, Graysmith and Toschi in their usual places.
Think of a calendar year like a clock face.
He pulls out a piece of paper and draws a large circle.
There are 4 major astronomical events each year: the winter and summer solstices, and the vernal and autumnal equinoxes. Basically, these 4 moments cut the year into quarters: December, March, July, and September.
He writes each of these in winter at the 12 position, autumn at the 3, summer at the 6, and vernal at the 9.
Now we plot the attacks. Betty Lou Jensen, December 20th, one day before the winter solstice.
He makes an X mark up at the 12.
Darlene Ferrin, July 5th, near summer solstice. That year, the very day of aphelion, when the earth is farthest from the sun.
He makes an X mark by the 6.
Cecelia Shepard, September 27th, nearest the full moon to the autumnal equinox.
He makes an X mark by the 3.
And Kathleen Johns, March 22nd, 2 days after the vernal equinox.
He makes a final X by the 9. Toschi gets it.
It's killing by lunar cycles.
Yeah, but that's not my point.
Then what is?
This.
Graysmith takes his pen and connects the X's, one vertical line through the circle, one horizontal. Toschi stares. The diagram forms a perfect zodiac symbol. Cut to pages of an astrology book being flipped through.
Lunar cycles.
Interior Public Library day, Graysmith flips through the pages and mutters to himself as he stands in line for the information desk behind a woman. Can you tell me where to find the new Jackie Collins? The librarian smiles way too cheerily.
Second floor, it's a sizzler. Next.
Can you tell me where I can find a list of every unsolved murder in California since 1965?
The librarian's smile fades. The others in line look suitably shocked. Interior Graysmith home day. Graysmith enters to find Meryl waiting for him, upset.
You were supposed to pick up the boys from soccer.
I forgot.
You haven't spent any time with them in months, and work called, said you missed another deadline. Robert, you have a problem.
No, you have a problem with what I'm doing, and I don't understand why.
Who called our house the other night?
Silence.
I'll spend more time with the kids, I promise.
Interior Graysmith kitchen afternoon. Margot sits in a high chair. Graysmith makes her a sandwich. Teen Brad and Cal sit at the table, cross-referencing dates from the books. Cal is on the missing murdered list, and Brad has an astrological charts.
What about September 26, 1970?
Checking. What is it?
Lake Tahoe nurse goes missing.
Brad finds the date on the chart.
One day before the vernal equinox. Dad?
Mark
it. Brad turns to a large board and marks the nurse's name, date of disappearance, and celestial significance of the date.
Oh, got another one on June 19th, 1971. That's got to be close to summer solstice.
Brad flips through the charts to check. Graysmith delivers Margot her sandwich. Margot looks up, smiles at him, and then...
How come you and Mommy don't sleep in the same bed now?
This stops Graysmith cold. The boys exchange an awkward look. Before anyone can speak, the phone rings. Grateful for the distraction, Graysmith picks up.
Hello?
Robert, it's Dave. Called?
We've been doing research cross-referencing lunar cycles with the Zodiac's timeline. More often than not, each cycle since 69 corresponds with a letter, an attack, or get this, an unsolved homicide. I mean, Zodiac claimed 37, right? I think he killed more and that he's still doing it.
Who do you have working with you?
Graysmith glances at his sons.
Some colleagues?
With all this work, I'm surprised you haven't cracked the 1969 code yet.
Off Graysmith's face. Interior Graysmith's office night. Graysmith's stack of books on cipher strewn all around. Crumpled up papers everywhere. Failed attempts. He's scribbling furiously on a legal pad. Interior Toschi's bedroom night. Toschi roused by a ringing phone. He answers it groggily.
Hello?
I cracked the 1969 code.
A beat as Toschi absorbs this.
Robert, I was kidding.
Exterior press conference day is superimposed August 8th, 1979. On video, Graysmith stands awkwardly sat at a podium as flashbulbs pop. A newscaster over this.
In the decade since the Zodiac Killer's second cipher was received, every federal agency has taken a crack at decoding it. CIA, FBI, Naval Intelligence. But today, the SFPD announced to the world that where those agencies had failed, a cartoonist has succeeded.
Graysmith, cowed by all the attention at the conference, reporters shouting questions.
How'd you do it?
I got a lot of books from the library.
Drowned out by more questions, interior San Francisco PD pawn shop detailed day. A shitty office in the basement, Toschi's new digs. He sits with Graysmith, the translated code in front of them.
It's near gibberish.
So are the other letters. It mentions you again.
We focus in on the line, hell/Toschi the pig stalls.
I'm touched.
I found a book, As Above, So Below, by Alan Oken. Every symbol used in both ciphers is in there. It was Zodiac's master text for both ciphers. Guess what the book is about?
Astrology.
Graysmith nods.
The answer's always been there, Dave. The Zodiac symbol itself, the lunar cycles, the star charts. Andrews was working off more of a pattern than we ever dreamed of.
How's it going with finding Bernell?
I'm going to see him tomorrow, but Linda Farron's in the wind. If you could just call Pam for me.
I told you I'll listen, but I'm not getting involved again. You're going to have to find it yourself.
Interior Graysmith's office night. Graysmith pours through various phone books trying to find names, his fingers scanning down a list in the F's.
Why'd you do it?
He turns, startled.
You went on TV. You put your face and your name out there for that last psycho to see.
You're being paranoid.
I'm being paranoid? Who's been calling our house, Robert? At least once a week and you never let me answer.
Meryl.
You're locked away in here all day and night, looking at star charts and code books and photos of dead people that have nothing to do with our life.
I have to do this, Meryl.
Why? Look at me, Robert. Why?
He can't look at her. She softens, realizing.
You can't even answer that, can you? Always the Boy Scout. The do-gooder. That's why I fell in love.
He looks at her, surprised.
But Margot is 3 years old. She needs a father, not a Boy Scout. Brad and Cal need you too.
Graysmith sees the tears. He can't help it. He goes to her, holding her in his arms as she weeps.
I need you.
I know.
You promised. You chose.
I'm so sorry.
Then stop.
He holds her closer than ever, crying too.
I can't.
Meryl steps back like she's been slapped in shock.
You can't. You think there's what? No, some nobility to this?
Meryl.
No, this is some great crusade you're on while your children grow up without you, and I lie alone in that bed every fucking night. Nobility and throwing your family and your wife and your career and every goddamn thing we ever worked for.
Stop.
Tell me why. Robert, why? We can have a life.
They don't. They don't.
He rips a picture of Cecelia Shepherd off the wall, thrusting it towards her.
This is Cecelia.
She turns away from the photo, but he grabs her and shoves it in her face.
No, you look at her. She had a father just like Margot. She was pretty and young and innocent too. You know what he did to her?
Don't.
He hogtied her, hands to feet, stomach in the sand, his knees on her back, and they took out a knife, a foot-long knife.
He holds his hands apart to demonstrate the length.
And with all his weight, all his strength, he put it into her over and over and over again. In her back, in her side, in her stomach, and in her chest to the hilt. He tore this 95-pound girl to pieces.
Please stop.
Stabbed her 24 times. Literally ripping her apart in front of her boyfriend's eyes. And when he was gone, her boyfriend tried to untie her by gnawing at the ropes. But she was bleeding so much that his mouth kept filling up with her blood.
Meryl sobs in agony.
So he had to keep spitting it out to keep chewing.
Oh, God, please.
To save her, but he couldn't save her, Meryl. Nobody could save her. And she was young and sweet and 19 and Margot, and I have to fucking do this!
He finishes, slamming his fist into the wall, voice hoarse from screaming. Meryl stares at him, truly terrified of her husband for the first time. She runs from the room. Upstairs, the children crying. We hear Meryl rush up the stairs to console them. Graysmith collapses in his chair, his family upstairs, his research in front of him, another choice. As we push in on the circled name and address of M. Bernell. Exterior movie theater night, the same address as the phone book. Rain falls. Graysmith hurries through it, headed for the theater door. Interior movie theater night, lights down, only a quarter full. The show's already in progress, a sci-fi 3D double feature. Graysmith makes his way down the aisle, popcorn and soda in hand, careful not to disturb anyone. Taking in the old theater's decor as he goes, the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Graysmith popcorn hit the floor. His soda smashes down next to it, his feet rooted to the ground.
Oh my God.
He stands in the center of the row, stock still, blocking people's views, staring straight up, beautifully painted across the theater's ceiling. The sign of the Zodiac. Interior Morel's home night, Sherwold Morel in his PJs on the phone.
You're kidding.
Exterior movie theater night, Graysmith at a payphone, intercut.
Bernell invited me to his house to talk. I'm going right now.
Alone?
Yeah, why?
Mr. Graysmith, think about this. If Andrews is the Zodiac and Bernell is his best friend, and there's a gigantic Zodiac mural painted on the ceiling of this movie theater, hasn't occurred to you that going to this man's house alone at night might be spectacularly dangerous?
A beat as Graysmith takes this in, interrupted by a car horn. It is Bernell who's pulled up to the curb, gesturing for Graysmith to get into the car and follow. Exterior Bernell's house night. Graysmith follows the wild, white-haired Bernell through the front door of his house into the cluttered living room.
Thank you for having me over.
Click. Bernell locks the door from inside with a key. An eerie moment. Bernell smiles.
Not at all.
Bernell takes a seat in the easy chair. Graysmith clears some magazines off the couch and sits across from him.
I wanted to ask you about a particular film you may have run. The Most Dangerous Game?
Classic. RKO 1932. Leslie Banks. We've run it many times.
How about a 1969?
I'd have to check my records. Why?
You're familiar with the Zodiac Killer?
Bernell's face darkens.
This is about Don Andrews, isn't it?
He used to work for you?
For a time. I don't have any occasion to correspond with him these days.
There's a connection between one of the Zodiac attacks and the film.
You mean the symbol?
An awkward beat.
I didn't know about the ceiling until tonight.
Not the ceiling. I mean the film leader. Zodiac symbol on the film.
It's clear Graysmith doesn't follow. Bernell reaches into one of the many stacks and pulls out a coil of film leader.
Here. On the countdown, it's trimmed off each reel before they're shown, but it always arrives with it. First time I saw it in the papers, I immediately thought of this.
Graysmith looks. Behind the numbers in each frame is a standard Academy leader countdown, which looks exactly like a Zodiac sign. Graysmith mind racing.
We got a tip that Don left a film canister with you, something he told you never to open?
A tip? That a mysterious film canister.
Well, is it true?
Silence. Bernell stares at him finally.
Yes.
Have you opened it?
No.
May I see it?
Bernell shakes his head.
Don took it back in 1972.
Graysmith's face falls.
And this tip is how you got it in your head that Don's the Zodiac?
That and the hand-drawn movie posters.
Excuse me?
Graysmith fumbles out a folded poster.
The handwriting on the movie posters Don did for you. It's the closest we've ever come to a match.
Don didn't do any of the movie posters for me.
What? No, he did this one.
Mr. Graysmith, I do all the movie posters personally. That's my handwriting.
An awful moment. Graysmith looks at the locked door. Bernell stares at him hard. Graysmith puts on a brave face and rises.
I won't take any more of your time.
Not at all. Before you go, I should check on when we played that movie.
I don't want to trouble you.
No trouble, no trouble. The records are just down in the basement.
A beat. Graysmith echoing Toschi.
Not many people have basements in California.
I do.
Interior Bernell's basement night. The door creaks open. Bernell and Graysmith stand at the top of the rickety wooden staircase. We hear water dripping somewhere down in the darkness. Bernell flicks the switch and a naked bowl snaps on somewhere below. Very little light. Graysmith really doesn't want to be here. Bernell leads him down the stairs, hand on his back as they walk.
The very detailed posters I kept, but the one-off cheapos like that one there, I just threw into the back alley. Ah, here we go.
They finally stop at an overstuffed bookshelf. Bernell pulls one hand-bound volume from it and begins flipping through the pages. Graysmith looks around nervous. The bulb above them flickers. Bernell absently reaches up and tweaks it with a finger. The light goes constant again. Above Graysmith's head, a ceiling board creak, as though someone was walking around upstairs.
You live alone?
Bernell nods absently, still searching the book.
Ah, here it is. The Most Dangerous Game. Ran it in May of 1969. That would have been about 6 weeks before the first Zodiac letter, correct?
Graysmith still looking up at the ceiling.
Yeah.
You believe he saw the film at our theater and was inspired?
More footsteps creaks from above. Graysmith looks at Bernell.
You're sure no one else is in the house?
Would you like to go and check?
That's quite all right. Thanks for everything.
Graysmith turns and heads for the stairs, forcing himself to walk, not run. He climbs them, getting into interior Bernell's living room night. Graysmith emerges from the cellar, looking around. No one. He hurries to the door, grasps the knob, and locked from the inside. Graysmith looks for the bolt. There is none. No way to unlock it. He's trapped. The floorboards creak behind him. He spins to see Bernell standing in the cellar doorway, slowly walking towards him, menacingly, reaching into his pocket and pulling out the key. He steps past Graysmith and unlocks the door for him.
Have a good night.
Interior Toschi's home night. 3 a.m. Graysmith crazed, guzzling coffee and talking a mile a minute to his bathrobed friend.
Maybe there are two of them. Andrews did the killing, Bernell wrote the letters. I'm scared out of my mind. I think Andrews is in the house.
Are you okay?
Graysmith waves a question off with a hand.
You're right, the painting party's the key. I gotta find Linda. If she tells me Don Andrews is the man at the painting party instead of Walker, then...
Robert, I'm asking, are you okay? With
Why
everything?
wouldn't I be okay?
Toschi stares at him delicately.
When's the last time you were home?
Yesterday morning, I think. Anyway, if Linda places Andrews at the party, then we'll know he's Zodiac.
Robert!
Graysmith stops, then looks. The look on Toschi's face, guilt.
You need to go home.
Interior Graysmith home, dawn. The sunrise through the windows. Graysmith steps inside. Half the furniture is gone. Packing crates and tape in the corner. The living room looks bare. Graysmith takes it in, turns and walks upstairs. Interior Graysmith's bedroom, morning. The bed is stripped. Meryl's closet empty. All traces of her and the kids gone. Interior bar, night. The same one Toschi used to go. Graysmith wanders up to the bar, takes Toschi's stool, looks to the bartender.
Let me try a Manhattan.
The bartender pours it, pulls back from Graysmith on Toschi's stool, drinking Toschi's drink alone. Interior San Francisco PD pawn shop detail next morning. Toschi working then.
Call Pam.
Toschi looks up. Graysmith unsteady in the doorway, unshaven, bloodshot eyes, hasn't slept, still drunk.
You're drunk.
Call Pam and double check Andy Walker. Find Linda.
Your family's gone and you want me to make phone calls.
I need help.
I don't think finding Linda's the kind of help you need.
I don't have anything else!
Various cops look over at the drunken shout. Toschi stares at his friend, reduced to this.
Anymore. I don't. That's all I got.
Interior Toschi's bedroom, night. Toschi sits on the bed with Carol, pensive.
You're out.
I know.
You should stay out.
I know. Please, my friend.
Cut to Toschi's hand dialing a phone. Interior Vallejo, small house, night. Pam Farron, Darlene's sister, answering her phone. Intercut.
Hello?
Dave Toschi, ma'am. I'm sorry to bother you so late.
Yeah, you're that cop, right? The one who wrote the fake letter?
Just need to ask you one thing. You told the police Andy Walker was at Darlene's painting party?
Jeez, that was a long time ago. Yeah. Could have been Andy.
Toschi sits up.
Could have been?
Yeah, I couldn't remember, and they asked me if it was Andy, and I said it definitely could have been. Hey, listen, I've got to go.
One more thing. Can you tell me where to find your sister Linda?
Interior diner, night. Toschi sits with Graysmith, who looks worse than ever. He slides a slip of paper over to him.
Linda got married. Changed her name, works in Vallejo. This address.
Graysmith takes the paper, looks up at his friend.
Thank you.
Exterior Vallejo, afternoon. Kids ride bikes down the streets. Interior House of Pancakes, afternoon. Linda Farron works the counter, freshening someone's coffee. Another waitress walks up.
Hey, Lynne, some weird guy's here to see you.
She jerks her finger towards Graysmith, waiting outside. Exterior House of Pancakes. Afternoon. Graysmith with Linda. He looks terrible.
You're not a cop.
Journalist. I just have one or two questions, then I'll leave you alone.
Linda regards him, lighting up a smoke.
You okay, mister?
Fine.
You don't look fine.
I know.
She stares at him. He attempts to smile. Sadness creeps through.
Tell me about the painting party.
Told the cops about it forever ago. Darlene always had lots of admirers, even though she was married. Guys just liked her, is all. This one guy was weird, though. He used to send her gifts from Mexico, fabrics and such. I don't know why she was friends with him. They used to get into screaming fights. He'd come visit her at work and yell at her, and she once told me he killed somebody.
A chill goes up Graysmith's spine.
Yep,
Really?
yep. Maybe when he was in the service?
The Navy?
Think so.
Was he into movies?
Probably. I only met him a few times. He wasn't into people, I can tell you that. The painting party Darlene threw, people were supposed to show up, have beers, help paint. This fella shows up in a suit. Not exactly the right outfit. He just sat alone in a chair, didn't talk to anyone. Creeped me out. Darlene told me not to go near him. She was scared like I'd never seen. A couple weeks later, she was dead.
She takes a long, shaky drag on her cigarette.
Do you remember his name?
Sorta. It was short, like a nickname. Rob or Stan or...
Don?
She looks at him strangely, a long beat, then...
No, I don't think so.
Think hard, Linda.
I am thinking hard.
He grasps her arm, manic.
Don. Don Andrews. That was the name, wasn't it?
No.
Yes.
Get off me.
She pushes him away. He stumbles back, tripping over the curb and falling into murky rainwater in the gutter.
Jesus Christ, mister. It wasn't Dawn.
A beat. Graysmith coming to his sense, literally laying in the gutter, covered in grime. Wife gone, life ruined. All he got left is another dead end. He picks himself up slowly, holding up his head.
I'm sorry. No, I'll go.
He turns and walks away. She watches him go, broken, done. She blinks as it comes to her.
Bob. It was Bob.
Graysmith stops in his tracks.
Bob?
Yeah.
He turns back to her, mind reeling.
Bob Starr.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right.
He sent her... You said he sent her fabric.
She liked to sew. She made clothes out of them.
As it hits Graysmith like a ton of bricks.
Oh my god.
What?
Patterned slacks.
He takes off in a sprint. Interior phone booth day. Graysmith into the phone.
He sent her the fabric himself. That's how he knew about the patterned slacks.
Robert.
But when did you search Bob Starr's trailer?
Intercut.
Mid 71? June?
March was the last Zodiac letter in 71, right?
Yeah,
And when was the next time he wrote?
not till 74.
Toschi stops, realizing Graysmith fills it in.
Because he got scared. He thought you were onto him because you searched his trailer.
A beat as Toschi takes this in.
You think it's Starr?
He was the one at the painting party. The one who sent her the fabric. The one who was obsessed. He was in Riverside for Cherry Joe Bates. He was there in the beginning.
The handwriting didn't match.
He beat the test.
How?
Well, I don't know. This theory is about 90 seconds old. The only question is why there were no more letters from 74 to 78.
He was in a mental hospital.
Starr?
Yeah. He wrote me when he got out. Sorry I wasn't your man. Is there anything I can do to help?
Have any of the other major suspects ever written you after they were cleared?
Toschi thinking.
No.
Well, that's one guy out of 2,500, and I bet he didn't write it by hand.
Typewriter.
Dave, this is important. Did Starr get out of the hospital before or after the 78 Zodiac letter? Because if he was still in the hospital, then all of this is just coincidence.
He was out. 3 months before. Moved back home with Mom. Last I heard, he was working at an Ace Hardware.
Exterior Ace Hardware parking lot night. Outside the store where Starr works, a hard rain falls. Graysmith sits in his car, engine running, staring through the windshield wipers as the sluice back and forth. Inside the store, the figure of a man at the register, his back to us. Graysmith's been watching him for hours. On the seat next to him, Zodiac files, notes, handwriting comparisons, and Graysmith can make none of them fit.
How the hell did you do it, Bob?
On the dashboard, a picture of Graysmith's kids. Happier times, all gone now. Traded for a stranger in the hardware store. Graysmith's eyes never leaving the man inside. Exterior Morel's backyard afternoon. Graysmith follows Morel around as he spritzes his roses.
Maybe Starr disguised his writing.
You can't disguise your writing enough to remove telltale patterns.
Maybe he wrote them with his other hand.
Dave took samples from both hands.
There had to have been a way.
There isn't. Toschi and Armstrong sat and watched him write out everything they told him to. At no time were the samples out of anyone's view. At no time could they have been lost or switched or mixed up with someone else's.
Sherwood.
I analyzed Robert Starr's true handwriting, and I am telling you that it in no way matched the consistent telltale patterns found in the writing of the Zodiac letters.
A tense silence. The wind blows through the trees.
I didn't mean any disrespect.
Morel turns back to his flowers.
Can I tell you a story about Starr? He spent 3 years at a Cedro for child molestation. The irony is he actually used it to work there counseling children. In that 3-year period, not a single Zodiac letter was received.
Morel looks up at this.
That's not the story. It's standard procedure to administer a Rorschach test to all incoming patients, and Starr was no exception. The psychologist administering the test was told ahead of time that Starr was once been considered a prime Zodiac candidate, and advised to look specifically for answers that began with the letter Z. The psychologist thought this was silly. Subjects almost never respond to words that begin with Z, as the object of the test is to say the first word that pops into your head. So Starr comes in for the test. Psychologist shows him the first ink blot. Without missing a beat, Starr says it looks like a zygomatic arch.
Morel has long stopped spraying the flowers, staring at Graysmith.
Do you know what a zygomatic arch is, Sherwood? It's a nerve in the base of your neck. It also happens to be the exact point of entry of the bullet Zodiac fired into Paul Stein's skull.
On Morel doesn't know what to say.
I know the test is unbeatable, but this guy beat it, and I'm gonna figure out how.
Interior Graysmith's home night. Lightning flashes, rain pounds the roof. The contents of Graysmith's Zodiac investigation have spilled out of his office and now covered the empty living room as well. Tacked up on every wall, papers all over the floor, books on handwriting everywhere. It's overwhelming. Graysmith sits in the middle of it all on the floor, scribbling on pads, running handwriting and forgery tests, hasn't eaten or slept for days, mumbling to himself, a man truly obsessed. The phone rings. Graysmith picks up.
Hello?
The breathing again, slow and steady as ever.
I'm coming for you.
He slams the phone down, goes back to the book, accidentally knocking over his coffee, dumping it all over the pages.
God damn it!
Graysmith heaves the Java-soaked book across the room and lands on the floor next to a pair of female feet. Pan up to reveal Meryl standing at the open doorway.
You didn't return my calls.
Graysmith stunned to see her.
I've been busy.
I can see.
They stare at each other. Two people who no longer know how to act around each other.
I called the Chronicle. You told me you've taken an indefinite leave of absence.
I'm not a cartoonist anymore.
Why not?
Can I have my book back, please?
She walks over and hands it to him.
Bernell has the handwriting, but Starr did the killings, but they didn't know each other. He beat it somehow.
It takes him a second to realize he's speaking out loud, looking up at her like a child, eyes wet with tears.
Nothing makes sense anymore.
She looks around the room at the mountain of papers.
Did it ever?
Yeah, it did.
It's clear he's talking about her. Meryl shifts, uncomfortable. She takes a packet from her purse and hands it to him. More papers, divorce papers.
You'll put the house up for sale.
He just stares at them, numb, nods.
The kids miss you.
I don't want them to see me like this.
They need a father.
Graysmith nods absently, mind wandering back to the case.
Look at me, Robert. It's bad enough I lost you to this, but I will not let you lose them. Whatever you have to get right, you do. Finish it.
Silence. Meryl turns and walks out. More rain and thunder outside. Graysmith sits there alone, looking out the mountains of papers. Years of his life gone. He slowly starts collecting them, cleaning up. He stacks the books neatly in the corner, then rises to take the copies of the Zodiac letters down from the walls. Takes the first down, then the second, about to take the third. He stops. Staring down at them, light shines through them, illuminating the first letter under the second. The letter C is in both, almost on top of one another. They look extremely similar. Graysmith moves the papers so they line up. They're identical, exactly, down to the length of the pen strokes. Graysmith finds a T in both and lines those up, also identical. Graysmith turns and begins tearing through another stack of papers, digging out the sample of Bernell's movie poster, checking the C and the T. A smile overtaking his face, shouting, overjoyed.
He threw them out!
Interior Toschi's bedroom night. We hear a pounding on the apartment door downstairs, then a doorbell, then shouting.
Dave!
Carol rolls over, recognizing Graysmith's voice.
Oh, good Christ.
Toschi goes to the window and opens it, looks down to the street below. Graysmith stands in the rain soaked, clutching the papers in his hands, wearing the biggest smile of all time.
He beat the test before he took it.
What?
Starr beat the test before he took it. It was never his handwriting in the first place. He took it from the posters.
He laughs joyously, tilting his face up to feel the rain.
How?
Bernell said he threw the posters out. Starr went to see The Most Dangerous Game in '69. He found the old posters and used the handwriting as a key. He traced the Zodiac letters off of them.
He cackles and begins dancing around the rain in celebration. Above, Toschi begins laughing too. We begin to pull up as the lights all around begin to go on. Variations of "shut up" are shouted. But in the middle of it all are Graysmith and Toschi, soaked by the rain, both whooping to the high heavens for joy. And again, neither can stop laughing. Interior apartment morning. Graysmith awakens in his new apartment to a ringing phone.
Hello?
They took the files.
Interior San Francisco PD headquarters corridors day. Graysmith and Toschi walking and talking.
Department of Justice is officially taking over the case. Everything Bill and I ever put together, they just carted out of here.
Can they do that?
They are doing it.
What about Starr?
They told me they're going to explore all avenues and suspects. I'm sure we can expect an arrest within decades.
Get me in to see them.
It's going to be tough.
Graysmith stops him.
I have to finish this.
Exterior Department of Justice building day. Textbook federal building, tall and imposing.
Please be seated.
Interior conference room day. Graysmith settles into his chair opposite a panel of 7 agents. The lead one, Johnson, runs the meeting.
Mr. Graysmith, thank you for coming. These are the agents who will be running the Zodiac investigation. I understand you have some concerns you'd like to raise with us?
The other agents exchange looks. Who does this Graysmith guy think he is?
I just want to say my piece. Then I'll leave you alone.
From what we've come to understand, you have a history of not leaving things alone.
Laughter all around. Graysmith smiles in acknowledgement, knowing he's been ridiculed.
Fair enough. Mind if I stand? I think better when I'm standing.
Ancient Johnson motions for him to do so. Graysmith rises.
I'm not in law enforcement. I've had no formal investigative training. Like a friend of mine once said, I drew funny pictures for a living. So what the hell am I doing here standing in front of you, right?
More chuckles from the agents.
A lot of words have been used to describe the Zodiac. Phantom, mirage, ghost. I am here because I believe he is none of these things. The truth is, the Zodiac is a 50-year-old man working in Vallejo at a hardware store. His name is Robert Hall Starr.
Graysmith begins pacing as he talks.
When the first Zodiac letter was received in 1968, it contained a cipher that promised, when translated, to name the killer. When the translation was complete, a grouping of leftover letters was found at the bottom.
He produces a paper with the letters on them. It's a bunch of random letters.
Most people assumed this was some sort of word jumble. The letters, when unscrambled, would give us a clue about the killer. Robert Hemphill, Van M. Blackman, I am Oriot. The problem is that none of these people exist. If anything, it's a typical Zodiac, a mystery with no solution, a dead end of a dead end.
Certainly doesn't spell Robert Hall Starr.
No, but let's talk about Starr. Born in Honolulu, December 18, 1933, into a naval family that moved around a lot. They settled in Vallejo. Where Starr attended high school. His favorite short story was The Most Dangerous Game, and he was known for trapping and torturing small animals. During this time, he became intensely jealous of a classmate named Robert Emmett. They had words. After graduation, Emmett was swept up in the counterculture movement and became a hippie. He later moved to Germany.
Mr. Graysmith, are we nearing a point here?
The point is, Starr hated Robert Emmett.
Did Starr kill him?
No.
Hurt or threaten him in any way?
No, but...
Then I fail to see why a suspect's childhood rival has any bearing on the deaths of up to 50 people.
Silence. Graysmith quietly.
I forgot to tell you the most interesting solution to the word jumble.
Graysmith turns the jumbled paper over, printed on the back. Robert Emmett, the hippie.
At the time the letter was received, Starr's childhood rival Robert Emmett was a hippie living in Germany. If this is just a coincidence, it's the first of many.
Johnson chastened. The agents stare at the paper, listening now.
Like his father, Starr did a stint in the Navy. During this time, he received code training and lessons in marksmanship. He was discharged less than honorably after a fight he got into with a civilian that one source has identified as Bryan Hartnell, later a Zodiac victim at Lake Berryessa. Following his discharge, Starr began teaching, working both with children and mental patients at the Centro Hospital for the Criminally Insane, located just north of the Riverside Community College. In 1966, a woman named Cherry Joan Bates was found murdered in the parking lot of the Riverside College Library. Her father and the police were taunted by letters that used similar phrasing to the Zodiac letters. Because of the timing of the killing, the police came to the conclusion that Cherry Jo must have known her attacker. This would become a pattern in Zodiac killings. Starr has been confirmed by several sources to have been in Riverside at the time, one of only a few major Zodiac suspects to be placed there.
The agents writing, taking notes now.
On December 18th of 1968, Starr received 2 birthday gifts from his mother, a Zodiac watch and a ring with the letter Z emblazoned on it, identical to one worn by the Count Zaroff character in the 1932 silent film adaptation of The Most Dangerous Game. 2 days later, the first official Zodiac murders were committed in Starr's hometown of Vallejo on Lake Herman Road, a lover's lane. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were shot to death while running from their car.
Graysmith hands out crime scene photos.
And Betty Lou, she was shot 5 times, a moving target with a tight grouping of entrance wounds, an impossible feat for someone who was not an excellent marksman. By this time, Starr had become an avid hunter, and it has been confirmed that he owned a .22, the same caliber of weapon that killed David and Betty Lou. The biggest mystery, though, he was not how a man would pull off such precise marksmanship, but how he could do it in total darkness, as it was pitch black at the scene at the time.
More scribbling from the agents.
Then 12 days after the murder, Starr had a conversation with one of his hunting friends, Ryan Cheney. The short story of The Most Dangerous Game came up, and Starr asked Cheney if he had ever considered hunting people. Starr said if he ever did, he would kill couples on Lover's Lane in the dark by using a weapon with a flashlight taped in the barrel so he could sight his targets at night. He also told Cheney he would get women on the freeway to stop by indicating they had some problems with their tires, and then loosen their lug nuts so the tire would fall off and he would take them captive, a method later used on Zodiac survivor Kathleen Johns. Starr then theorized a third form of attack to be carried out at school children. He would shoot them as they came off the bus.
The scribbling has gone quiet now, the agents staring.
When Cheney asked Starr how anyone would get away with it, Starr said he would disguise his handwriting and write the police letters to confuse and taunt them, naming himself the Zodiac and using the symbol from the watch his mother gave him. He showed Cheney the watch and the ring. This conversation occurred in January of 1969, 8 months before the first Zodiac letters arrived in the killer, and the killer gave himself the name.
Silence. The agents stunned.
This is confirmed.
Mr. Cheney had taken a polygraph test and passed it.
None of the agents know what to say.
But between the conversation between Mr. Cheney and the first Zodiac letter came the July 4th murder of another Vallejo native, Darlene Ferrin, which brings us to the geography of Vallejo.
Graysmith puts a map of Vallejo on the easel, pointing to various locations as he continues.
Starr's mother's house, his main residence, is here. Less than half a block away is this International House of Pancakes where Darlene Ferrin worked. Cheney confirms that Starr ate there regularly and once pointed out Darlene to him, saying that he thought he had a shot with that waitress. Later, after Darlene got married, she acquired a job at Terry's restaurant here. Starr became a regular there as well. Several patrons at Terry's have confirmed a man named Bob would sit at the counter and flirt with Darlene. This same man showed up at Darlene's house in a full suit for the painting party, which is located here, 6 blocks from Starr's house and on the same block as the Vallejo police situation. This Bob has been sending Darlene gifts for months, including a ream of fabric that Darlene sewed into the outfit she was wearing on the night she died. This is the same outfit that Zodiac was able to describe in great detail in his first letter, even though the killer did not spend nearly enough time by the car to memorize that Darlene was wearing, according to surviving victim Mike Magoo.
Graysmith holds up a yearbook photos of Darlene and Betty Lou.
At the time of their murders, Betty Lou Jensen and Darlene Ferrin looked almost identical. One theory is that Starr mistook Betty Lou for Darlene in December and killed her. Another is that Betty Lou was a dry run for Darlene. In either cases, nearly identical crimes. Both couples and cars in Vallejo killed at Lover's Lane, not 15 minutes from one another. Then, on July 31st, Zodiac wrote us.
Graysmith holds up copies of the letters.
He took credit for the first 2 Vallejo attacks and detailed his methods, which were identical to the ones Starr described to Cheney in January. He included the cipher which contained the name of the Starr's high school rival, Robert Emmett. And he promised he'd kill again. 6 weeks later, he did.
More crime scene photos, this time Lake Berryessa.
September 27, 1969. Bryan Hartnell and Cecelia Shepard at Lake Berryessa. Cecelia was a former student of Riverside Community, the same college that Cherry Joe Bates was murdered at. Several people confirmed the two had known each other. Footprints found at the scene were traced to a type of boot called wing walkers, which are only sold at military installations and cannot be purchased without military ID. Starr had one. The boot prints were measured at a size 10.5. Starr's shoe size is 10.5. On the day of the attack, Bryan Hartnell was driving a white convertible Volkswagen Carmen Gia. And several years ago, Starr purchased an identical white convertible Volkswagen Carmen Gia.
Graysmith produces a sketch of the Zodiac's executioner costume.
Hartnell survived the attack and described this outfit as what Zodiac was wearing. It's identical to the costume worn by the character of Count Zaroff in The Most Dangerous Game, right down to the Z thing that Starr's mother gave him for his birthday. The last time this film played in the Bay Area before the murders was in May 1969 in a theater with a giant Zodiac symbol adorning its ceiling. This theater advertised with hand-drawn posters which almost perfectly matched the handwriting style of the Zodiac letters.
He passes the agent a poster.
I believe Starr, an admittedly avid fan of the story, attended the film and took some of the discarded posters. He then used an enlarger to trace his letters off the poster to disguise his handwriting. It has already been confirmed that an enlarger was used to manufacture of the ciphers. It stands to reason that it would have been used to disguise the Zodiac handwriting as well, which Starr claimed to Cheney that he would do. It's important to note that several of Starr's friends have confirmed he owns an enlarger.
Graysmith pauses to take a drink of water, then continues.
Up till Berryessa, we've been able to place Starr in every murder scene, 1 in Riverside, 2 in Vallejo, but this could still be a coincidence, right? Riverside and Vallejo are both small cities with thousands of people in them. One man among thousands doesn't prove anything. On the day of Berryessa, however, there are only 12 people surrounding the 12-mile man-made lake.
He shows the agent a photo of Starr.
When questioned by police, Starr told them he had been planning on going up to Berryessa on the day of the murder, but then changed his mind. However, 5 of the 12 people there identified him from this photograph as being there that day. Let me say that again. 5 separate eyewitnesses put Robert Starr at a murder site only accessible to 12 people in the world. And when he returned to Vallejo later that day, Starr's sister-in-law remembers seeing a bloody knife sitting on the passenger seat in his car. When she questioned him about it, Starr replied that he had used it to kill some chickens. Hartnell's words to Zodiac when he asked which of the 2 teenagers he stabbed first. "Do me first, I'm chicken."
Graysmith walks back to the table and picks up another crime scene photo. This one is of a cab, Paul Stine.
Exactly 2 weeks later, cab driver Paul Stine was shot to death by the Zodiac in San Francisco. This incident has always been the most baffling to detectives, as on the surface, it seemed to break the profile. While the attack occurred in a car, it did not involve a woman or take place in a secluded location. For Zodiac, it made no sense. For Starr, it made perfect sense. According to a friend of Starr's named Ralph Spinelli, Starr bragged to him following Berryessa that he was in fact the Zodiac killer, and that to prove it, he was going to, and I quote, "go to San Francisco and kill a cabbie."
Spinelli said this on the record.
Yes, now it's been established the Zodiac shot Stine, wiped down the cab, and then was spotted by 2 children in the house across the street. The composite sketch done of him bears an incredible resemblance to Starr, but it still doesn't physically place Starr at the murder scene, as he was with all the others. So when the police arrived, they let loose several canine units who tracked Zodiac's path following the shooting directly into the Presidio Naval Park, where the dogs lost the scent. People have speculated for years that Zodiac took this route because of his knowledge of the area from his Navy days. However, an examination of the apartment records in the area have recently revealed the fact at the time of the Stine murder, an apartment was being rented on the other side of the park by a man who put this name on his lease.
He hands the agents apartment records, pointing to one name, Robert E. Starr.
If you draw a line between the murder site and this apartment, it follows almost exactly the escape route Zodiac took through the park.
Graysmith let this sink in for a moment.
Now, if all this is true, why is Starr still walking free? 2 reasons: handwriting and fingerprints. They never matched. Handwriting, we've always discussed. Let's talk fingerprints. Well, for years, law enforcement officials have cleared Zodiac suspect using a bloody print from
He passes out blown up copies of 2 prints.
It is considered gospel that only the killer would have lost this print. It sounds logical, right? Wrong. Take a look at this photo.
He shows them a photo of the crime scene. Cops everywhere. Stine already on the sidewalk, onlookers next to the cab.
Look at the police barrier right next to the cab. Whose windows are open? Any one of these onlookers could have reached in for a souvenir and left their print there. It's important to note that the Zodiac of the cab was wiped down by Zodiac. and yet this one print was left in plain view.
He walks back to the desk as agents examine the photo.
Not only does this print not watch Star, it does not match any of the other 2,500 Zodiac suspects that 4 separate police departments have questioned over a period of more than 15 years. Nor does it match any criminal in the United States Police or FBI fingerprint database. The odds that a sexual sadist serial killer was never arrested or fingerprinted on even a misdemeanor charge in his entire life was beyond astronomical. They're ludicrous. The only conclusion available is that these are not the prints of the Zodiac killer.
Graysmith walks back to the desk and holds up a sheath of letters.
Over the next year and a half, Zodiac wrote almost a letter a month. In these, he threatened school children just as Star told Cheney he would. He mentioned Kathleen Johns, a woman who was almost abducted in the same manner Star told Cheney he would. He threatened bombings. Star had training and knowledge of explosives. He then had letters, and then the letters suddenly stopped. Why? Because in June 1971, inspectors Toschi and Armstrong searched Star's trailer in Santa Rosa. Before they questioned Star, almost a letter a month after, silence.
Holding up more letters.
Until 1971, Star feels safe. No arrest. Zodiac writes again. 3 letters over the summer. But then they stop over the summer. But then they stop again for 3 years. Again, why? Because Star is arrested at the end of the summer on child molestation charges and sent to Centro. His sentence, 3 years. Star is paroled in late 1977. He immediately writes Toschi as himself, the only suspect out of the 2,500 to do this. Months later, Zodiac writes again. Breaking his silence, he claims that he is now in control of all things. And this is the last we ever heard from him.
Silence. Graysmith exhales.
Robert Starr still lives with his mother in Vallejo, down in the basement like the one Zodiac described. He works at a hardware store, and everyone I know whose life has been destroyed. Not just the victims, but the investigators as well. Bill Armstrong ended up quitting the force. Paul Avery left the Chronicle, and his health has been going south ever since Zodiac threatened him. Dave Toschi, a man who was going to be chief of police, had his entire career obliterated in a day. All of them good men who just wanted to catch a killer. All of them victims.
Silence.
What about you?
Graysmith looks at the floor, considering it slowly.
I've lost my job, my house, and my life. I've lost everything. And I'm still convinced I have done right, because this man did wrong. I've spent over a decade looking for him. The mirage, the phantom, the ghost.
Graysmith looks up at the panel.
Robert Starr was everywhere I looked.
Interior Department of Justice, Corridors Day. Graysmith walks through the halls towards the front entrance.
Mr. Graysmith.
Graysmith turns to see Agent Johnson running to catch up.
That was amazing. We were wondering if maybe you could stay for a couple hours, discuss your theories in more detail.
Tempting offer, a beat, and then Graysmith hands Johnson the files.
Sorry, I gotta go pick up my kids.
Graysmith turns and walks away, dissolved to an American flag fluttering in the breeze. It's twilight, the sun giving way to crisp Northern California summer evening, superimposed July 4th, 1984. The flag flies above a parking lot. We're in exterior Vallejo, Blue Rock Springs evening, where Darlene Ferrin died 15 years later. Graysmith sits on the hood of his car, sipping a beer. His grown children, Brad and Cal, next to him. There's an ease between them now, truly father and sons.
This is where it began for me. Right here.
How's the book coming?
Almost done.
He drains the beer. Brad sees this.
Are you finished?
Graysmith, realizing the words have more than one meaning.
There's just one more thing I have to do.
Exterior Ace Hardware evening. As the streetlights of Vallejo click on, Graysmith pulls his car into the parking lot of the hardware store. Parks, gets out, leaving his kids, walk to the door. Interior Ace Hardware evening. Graysmith walks through the aisles looking for someone. finally spots him, a heavy, bald clerk stocking merchandise. Graysmith walks up to him. The clerk flashes a smile. The clerk's nameplate reads Bob. He wears a Z ring on his finger, a Zodiac watch on his wrist. Meet Robert Hall Starr. They stand 3 feet apart. Graysmith stares at him, looking at him in the eyes, searching. Starr's smile fades, realizing why Graysmith's there, what he's thinking. He frowns. His face transforms, and at once we can see how terrifying this man really could be. They hold each other's gaze for what seems like forever, and Starr finally looks away. Graysmith blinks once, getting what he came here for, knowing for sure. Graysmith turns and walks out of the store. Exterior parking lot, sunset, the sky a beautiful burnt orange. Graysmith walks back to his car and gets in. As he puts it in gear and pulls out into the street, we begin to pull up and back. The following words appear on screen. In 1986, the year I was born, Robert Graysmith published Zodiac, an attempt to share all information discovered by the San Francisco, Napa, Vallejo, and Riverside police departments during the course of the Zodiac investigation. It is still considered the definitive work on the case. These words fade, replaced by In 1991, surviving victim Mike Maheo was shown a photo lineup of Zodiac suspects. He immediately points out Robert Hall Starr and declares, "That's him. That's the man who shot me." Starr's basement was subsequently searched by police. In it were found bomb diagrams, explosive devices, and code books. These words fade, replaced by Starr suffered a fatal heart attack in 1993. At that time, police were building a case against him as the Zodiac. No arrest was ever made. The Zodiac case remains officially open to this day. These words fade, replaced by an anonymous phone call Robert Graysmith was receiving abruptly ceased in 1993. Not a single one has occurred since Starr's death. These words fade, replaced by today, Robert Graysmith lives in San Francisco and enjoys a healthy relationship with all 3 of his children. Many people believe the attention generated by this work is what finally forced the Zodiac to stop killing. By now, we can see all of exterior Vallejo night, the entire cityscape laid out below us, the American dream twinkling in the Northern California twilight. Over this, there is no evil in human affairs that has not some good mingled with it. Francesco Gucciardini. In the distance, Graysmith's car, a speck, driving away, finished. Roll credits, fade out. I swear, if I ever have to read text like that again,